Good evening and welcome to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark Prince Charles Banin, and the legendary, the one and only, the Beat the Presenter champion.
Just been playing
Caspar
online. Just been playing online with the guys, yeah.
Has it been good?
It's been excellent.
Excellent stuff.
Having a lot of fun.
Now, we always love to hear from you, Cass, so we'll be getting your unique views later on in terms of poker-related stuff, and no doubt, some other stuff as well that Caspar likes to tell us about. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about what we've got on the show for you tonight. If you're new to the show, let me tell you about the kind of poker we'll be watching. We'll be watching a variation of poker called Texas Hold'em. Now, in Texas Hold'em, you get 2 hidden hole cards, which only you can see, and 5 community cards, which everyone can use. You take all 7 cards, make your best 5-card poker hand, and in between all of that, there are 4 rounds of betting. And it's the betting that determines who are the winners and who are the losers. Now, we are a live show. I'm live, Caspar's live. However, the poker is delayed by 5 minutes, and that's to stop the players turning on the TVs and seeing what each other's hole cards are. Now, I did say it's a live show. We're also an interactive show. So if you have some views that you'd like to pass on to me or Cass, or like us to discuss, you can do that in 2 ways. The first way is by texting the show. Poker at 84222 is the way you do that. Don't forget to put the word poker. It's a new number, 84222, and put your message after that and your name at the bottom. You can also email the show, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. And, of course, have a look at our website, which is www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Lots of useful stuff to have a look on there, and some useful tips as well in the forum. So, without further ado, it's time, I think we had a little look around the table. Do you want to take us through that, Cass?
Very much. Cash game first. Nah, it's not a cash game, is it? I'm misinformed. Blame the producers, folks. I'm literally regurgitating what they say in my ear. But that is a tournament. It's a $20 tournament. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe they're wrong again. Who knows? It's potluck here on P&L. That is a cash game, Mark, is it not?
That is definitely a cash game.
It's a 51 cash game. Bigger than the one I was just playing, which was a 25.50. You can catch it live and interactive there on the site.
Oh, well, Benny Pump is multi-tabling all over the place. He's playing a multi-table tournament. He's playing a couple of cash tables, at least.
Good for him, like a real man. That is not the 25.50 game that I was playing, disappointingly, otherwise we'd have been seeing me. But there we go, it's an editorial decision. And that is a multi-table tournament, just in the early throes.
Ah, so were you playing a TV table?
25.50 TV table, yes, me and Kenneth Snappet and Robo Squirrel, all the boys.
Did you win your few hands that you played?
I won $13.75.
Did you?
Yes.
Not bad for about 5 minutes.
That's a cinema ticket with popcorn, I reckon.
Yeah, well, depends where you go. Maybe,
well, in America.
Maybe in the cheap ones that you go to, possibly. Yeah.
In Vegas, they're all cheap.
Are they?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Excellent stuff. Let's have a little look at our multi-table tournament, I believe, which we'll see how these boys are playing out.
Potty dotty.
So this one has just started off, Cass, by the looks of it. We're in the early stages. 10-20 are the blinds, just to give you some updates. Viewers, 126 players entered this one. 189,000 chips in play. They were all given 1,500 chips to start off with. Some nice prizes. First prize is $378, all the way down to 10th, which is $18.90. Obviously, if you end up out of that group, there is nothing for you, apart from some learning experience.
Not like tomorrow night, eh?
No, tomorrow night's going to be good. They have a $2,000 added tournament on this one, so lots of good value in that. And don't forget, if you have a chance, we'll be watching a very exciting development. We've got the qualifiers for the Poker Bowl this Sunday. This will be the second week, and it's on Sunday at 8 o'clock, and we'll be showing it here on Poker Night Live. Should be lots of fun. 5 weeks of qualifiers, 6th week is a semi-final, and they play out for the Poker Bowl final here in the studio.
Will you be playing?
If I'm around Sunday, yeah, Sunday's going to be this Sunday's going to be a bit awkward. I'd like to play one of them though.
Well, let me tell you, I was supposed to have a date with a girl tomorrow night, but she's a little bit money obsessed, and I don't think it's going to work. So I may cancel and play in that $10 with $22,000 added.
Money obsessed?
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Do you know many Oriental women?
No.
Well, I don't want to make a racist comment, but they are a little money obsessed.
Okay.
That's brought a silence into the studio.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Okay. Well,
how will Ofcom deal with that?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's go back to our multi-table tournament.
So all I'm saying is, I'm just going to check her out. Just going to have another phone call with her. and assess whether I want to go on the date, and if not, I will be playing in the $10 tournament.
Now, what happens if she happens to turn onto the show and she sees you making all these comments? That's not a good sort of opener, is it, really?
I'll be honest with you, mate, that will save an awkward conversation tonight. She won't call, and easy peasy. Then I'll definitely be playing in the $10 tournament.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to pit your wits against me, folks, first of all, ascertain that I'm playing, because I wouldn't want to be done under the Trade Subscriptions Act. But after that, put your money down and let's play, because I think it's fantastic. $2,000 added to a $10 tournament, usually with 100 runners. I've probably doubled the field now by saying that, and that's ridiculous.
It's not really sensible, is it?
Yeah, no,
you really want to keep quiet.
Equity.
In fact, what you want to do is actually tell people not to play.
I'm not playing. It's awful.
Yeah,
awful.
Don't do it.
I'm going on a date with an Asian.
So, are you into Oriental women, Cass?
Yep.
Are you? Okay. Say no more.
No, best not. Now look at that, Sophie Viney. She had second pair with an ace kicker.
Something for everyone here.
And now she's got a bit of a flush draw to go with it. But CLB's still in better shape, still a favourite.
Yeah, 2 pair. So, you decided you want to play? I'll give you something to play with.
Are you reckoning for a fight there, Mark?
No.
Because I'm not going to do like James. I'm not going to have a fight with you. You know that, don't you?
Aren't you?
No.
Why?
I'm a lot more zen than James. Seriously, if he wants to get all riled, that's his business.
He was getting a little bit flustered, I must admit.
Were you cool as ice?
I think I was, actually, yeah. I think I was pretty cool. He started punching me and all sorts, James.
Has it literally come to blows?
Yeah, he started punching me. Tragic Trev told him to punch me, and he gave me a punch. Just because I want to play King Queen suited a different way to him doesn't mean.
You wanted to raise it up, didn't you? I'll wager.
Yeah, absolutely.
He wanted to keep it in the land of the unraised pot.
That's right.
Yeah.
And someone actually we mentioned your name actually, and I can't remember how it came about, but we said. And he said, what does Cass like to do? I said, I'm not sure, but I think he probably likes to follow James in this one, but then James said he doesn't. So, I don't know. What do you like to do with that?
I am A, not getting involved,
Okay.
and B, I cannot get involved on the very strong grounds that it genuinely depends for me.
Okay.
However, I will say this, Mark. I will say this. I have raised with King Queen a lot in my life, but James's advice did ring true with me. The old land of the unraised pot. I do like it, I have to say.
Okay.
I still think it's situationally dependent, as I'm sure you both would agree. Actually, I bet there's far less division between you than you.
No, I mean it came about because I actually liked it too, and then I tried it, and then since I tried it his way, I couldn't stop losing with it. So,
really?
So I said, okay, I'll just play it my way. And that's really what spurred on the argument.
Right.
I wasn't even looking to get involved with the argument.
Oh, no,
I just kept quiet with King Queen. And all of a sudden he starts saying, so what do you think, Mark? So I said, well, you know. He goes, well, don't you agree with it? So I said, well, no, not really. But it was all a bit of fun. So we're watching a multi-table tournament. Entry for this one was $10. For their $10, they got 1,500 chips. And we're in the early stages yet. Blinds are only 10-20, and it's a lovely tournament to actually play this one because there are lots of play in it. You do get a chance to play poker. The blinds are nice and low. It's very different, and funny enough, it's actually very different to, oh look, King Queen.
King Queen in an unraised pot.
Is it unraised? Yes, it is.
And
it's
it is king. It is king of the unraised pot. So.
Oh, yeah. Apart from the fact that he's playing multi-hand, he's playing it multi-way.
He is playing it multi-way. He doesn't know that he's king of the unraised pot. And maybe if he'd raised, he would have eliminated the big blind and had a slightly better idea where he was.
Yeah, but it looks like he might get away with it. Oh, he must be happy with that now.
Still. Don't know what Max Power's doing calling in the first place.
No, I think he was waiting to see another club and trying for some backdoor stuff and trying to get big X-Evils chips.
I think he was wrong to do that, though.
Yeah. You think he was wrong in the early stages to have a little go?
Yeah, no, I like having a little go in the early stages, but not with 3 to a flush and 3 to a straight.
Yeah.
There are just better situations in which to have a little go.
Yeah.
Just let it pass. You missed your flop, basically.
Yeah.
Just let it pass.
I think also maybe the fact that he had one overcard as well as that nonsense, and he might have.
You're right, though, Mark. You do get some play in these tournaments. They're good tournaments from that point of view. They're cheap.
A lot better than the
Sim
Goes, aren't they?
Yes.
In terms of play. I mean, isn't that weird, though? There's no comparison. This one has got tons of play. The other one has no play, or very little. And it's strange how the same site produces such great multi-table tournaments, and oh, I don't know. For me, not such great sit and goes. I would say that because I haven't won any yet. But
For me, I'll be honest with you, they're brilliant.
Yeah, the sit and goes. Yeah, you love them. You can't stop winning with them.
They're the perfect structure.
And with that in mind,
I'm all logged in.
you're all logged in and ready, raring to go.
Raring to go. 45 minutes to go, and then I'd like seat 4, folks. If I could seat 4, keep it open.
I wouldn't choose seat 4 if I were you.
I want to be to Hoofy's left.
Okay, I wouldn't choose seat 4.
Why?
Why? Because I keep going for seat 4. I keep losing.
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, now you've made me superstitious.
You're going to reverse the trend now.
Now you made me superstitious, Mark. Now I'm going to go for seat 1 just on the basis of crap superstition.
Well, we've got CLB with a poor flush draw. Probably won't want to invest too much money in this, but Max Power doesn't have anything. So let's see if he decides he can force something here. No, he decides that he's a bit worried. CLB missed an opportunity.
See, that's where I would try and take it. Yeah, that's where I would try and take it because, you know...
Especially with a low flush like that as well.
Exactly. That's
not got much knowing.
That's where your semi-bluff, I think, should take effect. Someone's checked you, your head's up, you've got a flush draw. It's not a great flush draw.
No.
You don't particularly want to make it.
Yeah. What's the... one of the things... that I'm curious about, well, I'm not curious, but I think it would be good listening for our viewers, is why is that? I know, obviously, it's obvious that it's only a small flush draw, but why is that not such a great flush draw? What other bad things does it have going for it?
How do you mean, Mark?
Well, in as much that he's got a flush draw, why is that so much worse than, say, a 7-8 suited?
What, 3-4?
Yeah. I mean, if you hit your flush, you're generally going to be good, whether it's 3-4 or 7-8, aren't you? I mean, for me, I'll tell you why I think. I mean, one of the things, I mean, I agree with you 100%. The only thing I would say with that is that whilst I don't think it's a lot better than, whilst 7-8 I don't think is a lot better than 3-4, the advantage is obviously huge in as much that when you do get a higher flush draw like aces, ace, king, queen, you get the overcast to go with it, which gives you some other stuff to aim for as well.
Yeah, that's very true. That's an excellent point, Mark. I mean, also what happened there is he had 4 to the flush on the board.
Yeah.
And it could be that by the river, someone's hit a 1-card higher flush. Do you know what I mean? If there are another 2 flush cards, if he makes his flush on the turn, then he's vulnerable to someone having any card, one card higher than a 4. Yeah. So that gives him, the 5, 6, 7, and 8. I mean, I feel roughly the same about the 7-8 flush as well. If I'm in that situation, and I would assume that's why you play 7-8, because that's when I want to bet out. That's the perfect semi-bluff opportunity for 7-8.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's suited or unsuited, really.
Because you don't have, with 3-4, you just don't have anything else going, do you? You've got no straight possibilities. You've got no, as well as no straight possibilities, you have just a very poor draw, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to come back to a point made by a guy called Graham, who accompanied Tom and I one night. He's a guy I met in the gut shot, who articulately put something which I don't express enough, really, but is absolutely right. When I talk about taking the totality of things into account, what I'm really saying is, when you've got those cards, when you've got 3-4 to a flush draw, or 7-8 to inside straight draw, you're not really in that situation heads up betting the cards. The semi-bluff possibility is you want the guy to fold. In actual fact, if he's a calling station, I wouldn't bet it. So that's the thing, is it's 80% fold equity and 20% I might still make the hand equity. Because in actual fact, with 3-4, like with the power of the high cards, you're right. If you've got Queen 10 flush, you could be still good, because the other guy could be playing 7-8. Whereas with 3-4, you're almost certainly not good at that point. So you're putting your money in worst. Yeah. So it is definitely a semi-bluff in the sense of you do not have the best hand at that time.
Should you play that kind of hand a little more aggressively than a Queen 10, a Queen Jack, and Ace King in that position when you've got a flush draw? Should you be, because it is such a weak proposition, should you be putting in a few extra chips behind it to try and push the semi-bluff through?
I got to say, I don't go with that, and maybe we'll discuss why, because sometimes it needs to be extracted from me when I feel this way. I think that if they're going to, if you're betting with Jack Queen and you want them to fold as well with that anyway, then the bet should be the same. I think I'm always worried when people say, oh, you know, raise 4 or 5 times the big blind with Jacks or Queens because you want them to fold. My feeling is always, look, if they're going to fold, they're going to fold. If you raise 4 or 5 times the big blind, what you've done now is expose yourself, not literally, but you've exposed yourself with a greater amount of money, which I don't think is more likely to make them fold. What it's done is it's made them less correct to call in certain situations, and that's a good thing to do mathematically from that point of view. But I guess what we're talking about here, Mark, is less the mathematical and more the psychological elements of no-limit poker, or certainly where the psychological intersects with mathematical.
Yeah.
We're talking about fold equity, I think.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think that bigger bets do necessarily make people fold more. In fact, I was playing in a tournament, I know this is an anecdotal example, but I was playing in a tournament on couple of nights ago, and I made an all-in bet. There was a stupid bet. It was a stupid bet, took me out of the tournament.
Yeah.
But this guy called it with second pair. Now, I had been almost anonymous at the whole tournament, so it wasn't like he had a read on me or anything like that. He called it with second pair. He had ace-jack, and the flop was king-jack, something like that. And I had the third pair, and I can't remember what I had. I think maybe I had no, I can't remember. Not much else, right? And I made a stupid all-in bet because it was checked to me, and I had about 5 or 6 times what was in the pot in my stack. And he called me. So I don't, I think that's an anecdotal example of the fact that I don't think bigger bets do make people fold.
No, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, doesn't it?
Well, sometimes it has the opposite effect. Sometimes it looks scared.
Yeah, in fact, with all-ins, that has almost like a red flag to a bull, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. Certainly in this day and age, I played a dumb person's poker there.
Yeah.
Because it does. It looks like it looks desperate.
Yeah, for some reason it seems to make people call. There you go. Okay, some interesting points there. I think we've got a little sit and go waiting for you, so let's head over there. Okay, this is a $10 sit and go, which means there's going to be $80 in the prize pool. $40 will go to first. Second, we'll get 24. Third, we'll get 16, making a total of $80. Of course, if you do end up 4th through to 8th, you won't get anything. So it does get rather interesting when there's 4, 5, 6 players left, as they now try and, in most cases, try and protect their stack a little more than actually going for chips. So you do see the change happening, albeit rather quick. So we've got a few of our usuals. Hope you're nice and fully refreshed, Nash Anubis. Not going to be folding any trip 9s today.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, a couple of times, yeah.
A couple of times?
Yeah, he did it. He did it twice, yeah. I think it was both. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were both trip 9s as well. One of them he was multi-tabling.
Good laydowns or?
No. He was multi-tabling, and he only had a 9 on the board, which was second or third pair. And he check fold the button. There was other 2 players in it, and he'd already put check fold in there, which I think he had 9-2 or something. And the last card on the river was another 9. And before he could get back to taking the check fold button off it, he knocked him out.
Poor guy.
So. And then he had some other situation where he did something similar a little later. This was about a week or 2 ago. Not that we're remembering all of this stuff, Nash, but he said, maybe I've been working too hard and on my way home from his daily job.
What did he do?
I don't know.
Oh.
He didn't tell us.
You should have shared.
So what have we got here? We've got Sooty with the pair, middle pair, and Irid with, just a bit better than middle pair.
All I can think of is Colchester Civic Theatre watching the Sooty show with Matthew Corbett, not Harry, his dad.
I'm going to ask you a potentially embarrassing question here. How old
I
were
was a lot younger than, It's about, I must have been younger than 10, because I moved from Essex when I was 10. I think it was about 5, 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can let you off then in that case.
My favourite thing in Colchester Civic Theatre was the Gingerbread Man, where the whole stage looks like the shelf of a dresser. And you have Mrs. Pepperpot and the Gingerbread Man and something else. And that used to be magical when I was a little kid. probably kicked off my love of drama. By which I mean films and theatre, not histrionics.
Are you sure?
Well, I know I have a propensity for all those things, but... Now, shall I kick off the theme of the night, Mark?
Yeah, good idea.
Well, do you know what? I've actually got a different theme of the night to the one we discussed before coming on air.
Oh, okay.
Well, here's the one we discussed before coming on air, folks, and that was, which Mark didn't want to have anything to do with because it's too negative. But I said, so here's our fun theme of the night, and then we'll have a serious one. The fun one is, what's the stupidest thing you've done when you've been peed off after busting out of a tournament? So we don't want your bad beat stories. We don't care about that. What we want is when you've been really depressed, when someone's outdrawn you, when you've, even if not someone outdrawn you, whether you just had a legitimate beat and you're walking to your car after the tournament or you're putting your computer to one side, what have you done? I have thrown a laptop across the room after I've been cut off. And fortunately, it just hit the edge of the couch before hitting the floor. Just hit the soft edge of the couch, which just cushioned the blow, and everything was fine, but they would have smashed, basically. Would have completely smashed a £1,000 laptop after having lost a $400 hand. But what have you done? Yeah, my producers reminded me that I did split up with my girlfriend after losing another hand. But I think that needed to be done. That was probably a good thing, that the hand actually extracted from my life. So that was a good thing. So that's the jokey theme of the night, folks. What have you done? Or we'll allow what
You're not really giving us the truth on that, are you, Cass? I don't think. I think
What?
you're missing out the important point for our viewers.
The girlfriend?
Yeah, because I think I've got to tell them, really.
Go on.
That one thing that Cass doesn't want to tell you, that he was actually in a heads-up match with his girlfriend.
That's brought back a hideous memory. Let's move on. Oh, I can't. What we will allow...
You might as well tell us all about it now.
You know I can't. We will allow elation as well. So what have you done when you're elated? When you're absolutely ecstatic after winning a tournament? What's the craziest thing you've done? What's the biggest thing you've bought for someone? What's the most you've ever bought for someone? Nick always used to take me out to International House of Pancakes for huge pancakes and blueberry muffins when he won a nice tournament. So that's not the best thing in the world, is it? But, it's very kind of him. What have you done? Have you bought your mum a car? Something like that, after winning a big tournament. Probably not, but do share with us what it is. Right, that's the jokey one. Here's the serious one, right?
Okay.
I alluded to a theory the other day. I think it was when I was on with you, Mark. Yeah, it will have been during the Beat the Presenter, which I'll draw out more during Beat the Presenter. And it's this, and you know what, I've never seen any literature about this. And I think this is really important. Okay, see what you think about this, right?
Okay.
Traditionally, this is red hot poker chat, right?
Okay.
Okay, traditionally, people talk a lot about table image, yeah?
Yeah.
And they say you should adapt your play to this person based on the table image.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any literature to date that says that I think one of the single most important things that determines how two people play are the last 2 or 3 hands that they've played together. In other words, let's say you're in the small... Let's come back to our classic situation. Let's say you're in the small blind, right? And twice you raise it, and twice the guy comes over the top of you. Now, I think the way that you play that person and what you do, not just in small blind situations, but in a number of different situations, check raising and all the rest of it, is more determined by that history and that emotional history that you have between the two of you than any perception that you have of that person's play.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Now, I haven't seen anything written about that.
No.
I don't know that you can write about that, but that's my premise for this evening, is that actually, because I've been talking about it in heads-up things, and I think a number of people have made allusions in the forums to, oh, Caspar puts too much store by that. And do you know what? I don't think I do. I think that is one of the single biggest determinants of how someone's going to play you, whether they call or fold.
Well, that's actually very interesting that you say that, because I have gone through spells where I actually use that to almost like the core behind my poker playing.
Right. I
remember when I was playing in the World Series, not last year, but the year before, certainly in the World Series and in the one of the other tournaments, but I think it was a World Series actually in the main event. I was sitting down and I decided that I was actually going to I was going to re-raise one player each in turn, not necessarily one after the other, obviously. And I'll keep a note of when I do it, so that when I did it the second time, I'd actually have the hand. And I actually made it a point of actually re-raising them with absolutely nothing on most times, just so I'd start to get under their skin a little bit, so that when it does come round to me actually having the hand, I'll do it at that point, and hopefully the button's been pushed, and now I'll actually have the hand and catch them, in a bad situation. So yeah, that can work really, really well. And as long as you can watch for people's reactions and see. And sometimes it's funny actually, because I remember I was actually in the, I was actually in a satellite for that particular tournament. And what was happening is I was very, it was almost like a sixth sense. I could see who was getting irritated and who wasn't, but I was playing particularly aggressively. And I noticed, even though there was a guy that I raised, the funny thing about it was that he wasn't getting particularly irritated by it, but someone else next to him was.
Wow.
So I was noticing that he was now. So really, I thought, okay, there's no point. Don't worry about this guy. It's actually this guy you have to worry about when you pick on him. Then make sure you have the hand. Yeah. And that can work sometimes. Sometimes it'll actually get people thinking, oh, I'm not going to let him get away. He keeps re-raising everyone all the time.
It's one of the fascinating things. Again, not much written about this, I don't think. One of the fascinating things about live play, doesn't happen at all online, but on live play, poker table was quite a big old thing. Yeah. All the time, factions would develop between ends of the poker table. In other words, there'd be 3 or 4 guys at this end and 3 or 4 guys at this end. And if someone from this end pissed off someone from this end, because these guys were talking to each other, they don't know each other. They don't know each other from Adam. That's why it doesn't really exist in the gut shot, because you can know 3 or 4 players around the table. Do you know what I mean? But suddenly the little factions will develop and they'll be muttering under their breath. You're going to get him. Really, really bizarre. It used to happen day in, day out.
I never thought of it like that, actually, really about people in groups. But you're quite right. I think it wasn't sort of the guy next to me that was getting wound up. It was the guy next to the person that I'd raised that was getting wound up. And I think that was important.
That's right, because you're raising up the guy who's been talking to you for the last 2 hours about sports. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It used to make me laugh, actually, that these factions would develop around the table about people who didn't know each other. And if someone from this group, annoyed someone from this group, it could get verbal, but it would certainly come out in the play from time to time, no doubt about it. Okay, so question is, how significant do you think this is? And have you ever used this to affect someone's play? Particularly in those sit-and-go situations, maybe in cash games. I think less so in cash games. I think it is most effective in sit-and-goes because you're with that group of people, you're going to be with that group of people to the end.
Do you have enough time to do it in sit-and-goes?
Then that's what I think. I think you do. I do. Yeah. I don't think this has anything to do with long, sways of getting to know someone's style, like we talk about snap it for shorthand of being tight. Yeah. This has to do with...
You're talking about live sit-and-goes?
No, I think online.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've never really felt that at all online, to be honest, in terms of sit-and-goes. I've never felt that. I mean, I can get irritated by people. That's the thing. And yet I've never, ever felt that in a sit-and-go. Yeah, I've felt it quite a few times in multi-tables.
Right, but that's the thing. Not talking about us. We're talking about can you annoy other people. That's the thing. Can other people register it? I think they do.
In sit-and-goes, you think?
Definitely.
You don't think they're too short for them to actually get...
No, that's my point. Yeah. That's the only interaction that you have with the people is the interaction on 3 or 4 key hands.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never actually felt that at all. Never. Not that I can remember in sit-and-goes. I felt it in cash games. We're just sitting there for a couple of hours with the same people. So, you get to know them. If you are getting someone particularly aggressive who keeps re-raising and, doing all sorts of stuff, then it can get you a little bit wound up. But... and multi-table tournaments, of course. But sit-and-goes, can't recall.
I mean, not multi-tables because you're always moving.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You very rarely spend more than an hour and a half with someone on a multi-table.
Yeah.
Unless you're on one of the...
That can be enough with the right tables.
People. Yeah, but that's why... Well, to be honest with you, a good sit-and-go should last about an hour, in my opinion.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Have you ever got annoyed by someone in a sit-and-go? Let us know the way you do that.
Well, no, not that. No, do you use it? Okay. Do you use, not necessarily have you got annoyed by it, but do you use the fact that other people might be annoyed to wind them up?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you used sort of under the skin tactics to wind up your opponents? If so, let us know. The way you can do that is by texting the word poker to 84222. Put your message in there. And myself and Cass will read it out on air and give you our opinions on that. You can also email it to poker@pokerlightlive.co.uk. So, love to hear from you on that subject. That's a really good subject to talk about, but it's not often a subject that you get to talk about or really get to read about, like you said, in Chronicles and stuff. It doesn't come up that often.
No. And sorry, Mark, I'm sorry to be really pedantic, but it's important for me. This is... we got sidetracked down the road of annoying people, and that's a really small part of what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm really, if you raise someone from the big blind or the small blind, that's not necessarily annoying them.
No.
You're not necessarily, getting under their skin. It's about, if that's the only thing you're not annoyed, you're fine, it's poker, but you've got him down as an aggressive player. Yeah, or maybe you've got him down as a player that you want to pop it back to because you want to slow him down.
Yeah.
So it's not about annoying people, it's not about psychologically doing stuff in the chat box, although it can be. That's a small part of it. It's about, do you use the history of the last 2 hands with that person very specifically to influence the way you play the third hand? Like, for example, a good example of it is...
But is it influenced via ego, though, rather than via poker technical ability to actually pop him back to slow him down?
That is what ego is, one small part of it. That's what I'm saying. But a good example is something that cropped up in my very first sit and go, where I raised 3 times in a row, and someone said I very rarely raise 3 times in a row because if my third raise is something like Ace Jack, people won't let me get away with raising 3 times in a row. They'll raise it up and I'll lose the Ace Jack. Yeah. So that's an example of it. It's not because they're annoyed. It's not because they're thinking. Ugh. It's just that they're going, I don't believe he's got it 3 times in a row. He's just on a momentum streak. Yeah. Right. And so they like to slow you down the third time. So it's just all about the very recent history and how much the recent history affects the way that particular hand is being played.
Okay. Yeah. There you are. So you know how to do it. You have to contact us. Let us know what your thoughts are. And you've got the text numbers. You've got the email address. Don't forget we have a new number, 84222, and you must put the word poker in. Anyway, we were watching a sit and go earlier, a $10 one, so let's head back there. I think we've lost a player whilst we've been chatting. Oh, yes, we have indeed. And we might be losing another one. No, Swansea is still there.
He's made a profit there.
Got a nice email here from Karen Wright, who plays under Chaminade. I was actually watching her in that multi-table tournament that she was talking about, that she goes on to talk about a couple of days ago. And a couple of interesting hands, actually, that I'll tell you about that she played in when we come to doing the email. Okay. So we're down to 7 players, still a long way to go, and this is going to turn in very nasty very shortly because the blinds are now 81.60. They're not going to be that for very long. They're going to go up to 163.20, and then it's going to be carnage. All of a sudden, you'll see 3 or 4 people go out very, very quickly. And Swansea is saying, well, you know what? I don't want to get to that stage where I've got absolutely no chips in comparison to the blind. So let me see if I take a little bit of a risk, but it worked out okay on that occasion. Oh, look at this, Cass. We've got the monster on the big blind. A 7-8 offsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Now, who's going to be brave and take him on?
I think he'll get a walk mark.
I don't know. Buffy was going to... No, he doesn't. With his 590, he does get a walk. See,
I bet he's 6
I think they can. I think sometimes they can see your cards.
Do you think?
I think that's what it is.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. I think sometimes they can see your cards. They saw him with a 7-8, thought, keep away.
Sorry, Code Read. It's an email from Nash Anubis.
All right.
He says, hi guys, I haven't put down pocket 9 since.
No, I don't think he actually had pocket 9s. I think he had a 9-2 or something and he hit a set of 9s on the river.
He says, for your information, Mark, in regards to my job and why I was knackered that day, I teach rail engineering safety. And it was a very long day. So, I mean, he's teaching rail engineering safety.
Are they always on strike, those guys?
That is a very important subject, and you do not want that guy being tired during his job. So it's better that he's tired during internet poker and folds 3 9s. Do you know how many lives he saved by folding those 3 9s?
Yeah, but they do spend a lot of time sort of...
12.
How do you know that?
Did it all up here, mate. It's like fold equity calculation.
They're always on strike, aren't they? I'm sure every time you go there, they're always on strike and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not sure about the rail, but I don't know. Maybe we won't go down that road. So another one gets knocked out. We're down to 6. I'm only teasing, Nash. I know. I know you won't throw down those pocket 9s again. And Swansea's really having a go here. He's really trying to accumulate chips. And he gets another 240. The only problem is it works all but once, doesn't it? The all-in move. And that's the thing. It looks great when it works, and it will work a few times, but only takes one occasion where they say, enough's enough. I'll call you with my ace 10. I'll call you with my ace 9. And
well, that's what I'm saying. That's my whole point. That's my whole point right there. See, you said that it didn't happen in sit and goes, but it does. That's precisely it. If someone goes all in 2-3 times, that very act means someone will call you with ace 10, ace jack when they would never have the first time.
Yeah, I was actually looking from my original thought on it was a bit more of an ego.
Getting angry. Yeah, okay,
getting angry. Actually,
so you see what I'm saying? It's about recent history.
Yeah.
Now that has nothing to do with your overall image. That's my point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You could have any image at all. If you've gone all in 3 times in 6 hands, people will call you down the 4th time with ace 10. Or smaller.
Yeah. You think it's as little as that, 3 times?
Definitely, I would say 2 times.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, I think definitely 3 times. If you've done that 3 times in 6 hands...
Because usually I find that what most people are thinking is, OK, the first time you don't know, the second time you must have it now, the third time surely you wouldn't do it again, you really must have the hand this time. And they let it get you away with it 4 or 5 times before they think, OK, no, 5 or 6 times, no, definitely not.
Well, let's hope it happens for him here. It has. He got called by Hoofy with aces. Poor old Hoofs just walked straight into bear trap. Can't win
no
now.
outs, no. Drawing dead.
Heartbreaker for Hoof. Bad luck though, but the old all-in tactic there from Heidi High has worked. And the time that he had it, as you said, Mark, he made a note of it. And
yeah, but
you can't engineer getting aces. But
Hayes Says High wasn't really that aggressive, I don't think, up to now. It was Swansea that's been doing it a lot.
No. Hayes Says High's gone in at least twice.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
well, Swansea's gone about 4 to 5 times.
He was quite short stacked. What I think about your point about whether it happens with 3 times depends how fast the tournament is. In a tournament this fast, people don't have time to wait 4 or 5 times. Do you know what I mean? Once you've done it 3 times, they're like, Jesus, he's hoovering up chips. You go all in 3 times here, you've won well over 1,300 chips. Nearly
but that's in a later stage, though, really, isn't
it? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Still, at this stage, someone goes all in 3 times, wins 1,500 chips. That's it. People can't afford to let you do it anymore.
No, it's too late, isn't it? If they let it get that far.
So, that's what I mean about recent history. And I think, one of the arts of poker, actually, is, like I said, you can't engineer when you get aces, but you can time how many times you think you'll get away with that, given people not having any cards, which, again, you can't control or know, but how many times do you think you'll get away with that before someone will call you? And then you've got to know, whether it's the 3rd time or the 4th time, whether you need to have the goods on that occasion.
Yeah, interesting subject. Like you said, it's not really discussed...
It's not. It's not. For
Hardly
something
anywhere.
I think so important, it's not discussed at all. But because I think it's quite difficult to discuss. Swansea lad there had to call and was really in a world of hurt when the cards were turned over, so good old Hoofy's doubled through. But folks, most importantly, what do you think? Do you think I'm over-egging this recent history thing, or do you think it's something that you do take account of, or you should take account of more, or what are your thoughts? Do please get in touch with us. What is it, 8422?
84222.
84222, remembering to put the word poker for some reason. Once again, ooh, look at that. 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen. Oh, poor old Nash. We wish he had better 9s now.
Yeah, 6 cards straight. Of course, we only play a 5-card poker hand. Don't need that last one. Not the first one, really. Always looks better, doesn't it? You should get more for that, shouldn't you?
Should, double the pot. The site should add money.
So we know what Swansea's going to do. He's done it a few times, and sure enough, he does do it again. Hoofy can't fold, and normally this would be a split pot, so he needs a lot of help here. A jack or a king will help him out of this one. Nope. So...
And as you said, Mark, only works so many times, and maybe if he hadn't done it, well, I think Hoofy would have called with ace 4, whatever.
Well, the problem was there, and this is the thing that Swansea didn't realise. I don't think he didn't take into notice. Whereas it worked the other times for various reasons. The reason it didn't work there, Swansea, was for the simple reason that Hoofy couldn't fold. He had half his chips in the pot, and that's one thing I don't think you looked at. You didn't look at the fact that he didn't have enough behind him to fold. What you really want to do in those situations, if you want to pressurise people, then you pressurise people that have got, that can fold the hand because they've still got enough chips. In his case, he was desperate, he had to make a move, and he probably would have done it on a lot less as well.
Well, which is one of the reasons why this stage of the sit and go is so as Malcolm said, it can be such a crapshoot. It's that it's that precise thing. Is it's impossible to get someone to fold. So you're not. It's not even a question of who makes the first move, because the first move is just so often going to be called by the big blind because it's correct to do so. Not always, but
yeah.
Here's a concept for you, Mark. If, let's say you're playing with 3 players who are awful, right? Let's say you're in this 4-handed situation, you're playing with 3 players that are awful, okay? And you know that the big blind, rightly or wrongly, will call you every time.
Yeah.
Okay? So that means that you know that your hand is going to go to a crapshoot.
And how many players are in?
Let's say 4. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Is this a sit and go?
Yeah. Yes, it's definitely a sit and go. It's definitely a tournament. But you know that the big blind will always call. So you know that if you put your money in, you're always calling. Because you're effectively calling too.
Yeah.
Right? So does that, in that situation, make it genuinely just a game of luck? If you know that you cannot take a pot by folding?
No, no, because you've got to adapt.
But what do you do? I mean, if the blinds are coming around and you've only got 3 big blinds in your stack,
yeah,
right? And you know that, all right, anything higher than Queen 7 is higher than an average hand.
And is it going to be possible for him to lay down on the flop?
No. Once you push, you're pushing it all in before the flop, and he's calling all in.
So can't you just call and then push in on the flop?
You could do. Yeah, you could do. So that might be one of the tactics around it.
That's one way of getting around it.
Okay.
But of course, you've got to have enough chips for him to.
But then you could just say that he may call him. You know, if we okay. So then we say that. That's cool. That's good. That's one way around it. Second assumption that we make in this model theoretical game is that he'll call on the flop as well.
Okay.
Right. So once again, because this is something that we get from people a lot, isn't it? How do you play maniacs? Yeah. And what I'm wondering is whether the answer is that some maniacs just reduce the skill level in poker so much.
Well, they do. There's no 2 ways about that. That's very true.
Yeah, and by so much, I mean almost entirely. And so what advice can we give those people, either to play more effectively and B, to mentally and psychologically deal with that?
Well, you've got to have a minimum requirement. That's really what it does. All it does is that it means that you've got to go in with a hand that you believe will give you, a better than average expectation. Now,
which is Queen 7. So if you've got a king...
Well, I don't think, whilst it might be above average, I don't think it's the sort of hand you want to be pushing in knowing that you're going to get a caller.
What, any king?
You know, it has to be, for me, it has to be really in the top third of hands that we're talking about.
But if you're in this situation, Mark, if you're 4-handed and the blinds are a third of your stack, statistically, you're much less likely to have one of those hands than to
then it
have
has to be any king. It has to be king or above, yeah.
Okay, I guess, but what we're saying, though, is... we're
picture cards.
We're making slight stabs in the dark. To be optimal, you need a mathematical approach to this in terms of, what is the likelihood of getting hands in these certain rankings, and at what point is it correct to go in with?
Yeah, that you'd know more about
holder.
than I would. Yeah, because I'm not really up with hand rankings, not so much hand rankings, but sort of groups and stuff like that.
No, it's not a question of groups. It's a question of in terms of matchups, in terms of your 2 cards against any 2 random matchups. If you know that a maniac's always going to call, and given the number of hands that you have left, given the number of players in the blind, what hand is it correct to push with, given exactly what you've just said there?
Well, the other thing, of course, there is one other factor in all of this, and that is if you're playing with 3 other players, then there is a chance that big blind will get knocked out by one of the other 2 by them trying to do the same thing.
Well, I agree with that completely. I mean, I think that actually should be the bedrock of your strategy.
Yeah, so...
Precisely for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in that situation, it's got to be, it's got to be any king, any ace, if you're in that situation and you feel that you're the one that has to push, or any combined picture cards, any combination of picture cards. It includes 10 Jack for me, including 10 as a picture. What about you?
I don't know. It's quite weird that I don't know. I mean, I
wouldn't want to be doing it with 6-7 suited. Let's put it that way.
No, ironically, you see, I've always been I've always been scrambling around trying to formulate or conclude this theory, which is, let's say you're playing against a player who you know will call you with any ace or any king. Here we are, heads up. If you're playing against a player who you know will call you from the big blind or any ace or any king in that scenario, are you in fact not better doing it with 9-10 suited than with any rag ace or king? Because
So
doesn't
he's
that
going to
mean
call
that-
you regardless?
I know, he's only going to call you any ace or king.
Oh, only any ace or king?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said he's going to call you regardless.
No, I'm just saying now is a different scenario.
Oh, okay.
Different scenario in which he calls you with any ace or king.
Okay.
You're actually better in that scenario pushing with 9-10 suited than a rag ace or king. Now, you could do it with a rag ace and he could have a king, or you could do it with a rag king and he could have an ace. But I would say, as an overall expectation, you're probably better pushing with 9-10 or 10-jack suited.
Well, in that case, you're probably just worth pushing as often as you can.
Do you think?
Well, yeah, because if he's only going to do it with an ace or a king, or a pair, obviously, then you might as well just push as often as you can. Because all you need is for him not to have it in the first couple of times that you do it. And if he does, that's just bad luck. But I'm not sure what the odds are, but the chance of him having an ace or king, what are the chances of that, do you know?
I don't know. We'll sit down and work out the chance of having an ace or a king or a pair.
Yeah.
And that will be the question.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you've just got to push with anything. It doesn't have to be connectors or anything. Because if you wait for connectors, and if you wait for an ace or a king, then I think you just...
well, then it depends.
You're not building your stack in the meantime.
It's fine, but then it depends what your blinds are in relation to the stack, doesn't it? If we're in that situation where we were just now.
Yeah.
All good stuff to think about. Should we have an email?
Yes, go on then, far away.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
if you want
Sorry.
to do it.
I've got an email here from Gefar Mouse, who I was playing with online before the show started. He says, "Hi, it's nice to play Caspar for a few hands before the show. Perhaps this could be a feature. You'd have to catch people as off guard as me. Play the presenters in a cash game to warm up, so to speak. I came across a brief mention of an alternative take on playing hands. It basically came down to when you play a hand, you look for excuses to fold, not the other way round, as most people do. So that would mean most people look for excuses to play. See, I would disagree with that. What do you think of this approach? Could you expound a little on the technique, things to look for, things to avoid, that sort of thing? Keep up the good work." See, I think most people do start off with a default setting of I want to play this hand, and then look for excuses to fold. Actually, I think a professional, a tight aggressive professional, and not all are, but a tight aggressive professional starts from the default setting of I'm going to fold this hand because I'm going to fold most hands, and then says on earth shall I play this hand, and looks for excuses to play. So I kind of coming at it the other way round.
Yeah, no, you are right.
Yeah,
yeah, you are right. Personally, I believe you're right. I think this is where I'd probably have another disagreement with James on, because I'm pretty sure he's probably thinking the other way around. But certainly,
but James is tight.
He's tight, but I do believe that I'm sure he's actually said it about looking for reasons to fold rather than looking for reasons to play. And I think that used to be sort of an old theory of thinking. I think he's even mentioned in Helmut's book about looking for reasons to fold. I think he mentions it in his book about looking for reasons to fold rather than looking for reasons to play. But I believe along your lines that you should be looking for reasons to play. Not so that it pushes you in with any old rubbish, but but as long as they're valid reasons, and if you've got a good way of filtering out the nonsense ideas of why to play hands, then I think that's the right way to think.
I mean, Gavarmas, in terms of what do you think of this approach, and could you expand a little on the technique? The technique is basically how to play poker. I mean, whittled down to its simplest form, you're saying to yourself, what have I got? What do I believe my opponent has? Not specifically, but the basket of likelihoods that my opponent has. And then, or opponents, and then finally, what do I believe my opponents will do in the event of A, call, B, fold, C, raise, or D, check. Those are the three things that you're asking yourself, but it's a question of what information do you put into the processing machine to come out with those different probabilities. Some of the probabilities you do mathematically with your head, some of them you do instinctively with your gut or your heart. But essentially that's what poker's about, and then it all comes down to expectation. In other words, if I am in this situation 100,000 times, what is going to give me the greatest expectation? Because I cannot ever, ever, ever be certain about anything now. Can't be certain about what my opponent has, ever. Can't be certain about what the next cards are going to be, ever. And can't be certain about what he's going to do in response to me, ever. Can only ever work with probabilities. But for more information, watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this show so far. We've watched a little bit of multi-table tournaments. We've watched a sit and go. So lots more action. Cash is going to be gearing up on the Beat the Presenter table, so don't go too far away, because we're going to be right back on this space for more Poker Night Live, so don't go too far away. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles Banin, and the legendary Caspar Berry. Now, Caspar, you're playing the Beat the Presenter tournament. How's it going so far?
Very well indeed.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so we'll be looking in and seeing how Caspar does later on in the show. In the meantime, we've got some emails. However, I'm not going to do them because I want Caspar's input. It's going to be too difficult for me to get his input while he's playing. So we're going to come back to those later. In the meantime, let me tell you how you can get in contact with the show. There are a few different ways you can do that. The first way is by texting the show. And you can do that by texting the word poker to 84222. Don't forget, it's a new number. Poker to 84222. Put your message in after that and your name at the bottom. And myself and Caspar will read it out live on air. As well as that, you can email the show. poker@pokernightlive.co.uk, and worth having a look at our forum. We've got a great forum. It's www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Certainly worth having a look on there. Some great and useful information. And as well as that, you can actually have a look at some information that we've got about the Poker Bowl qualifiers that's on there. This Sunday and every Sunday for the next 4 weeks remaining, there's going to be a qualifier on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We're going to be showing it here on Poker Night Live. So it's going to be a fabulous event because once the qualifiers are over, they all meet in a semi-final, and the winners of the semi-final play here live in the studio. So it should be a great little tournament to watch. So worth having a little look at that. That's at Sunday, 8 o'clock, and it's every Sunday for the next 4 weeks for the qualifiers, and the 5th week will be the semi-final, and then the final to be announced. So, without further ado, I think we've got a multi-table tournament to have a look at. So, let's have a look over there and see what's the latest. Okay, so just to remind you, this was a tournament where 126 players entered, 189,000 chips in play. They all started with 1,500 of chips, and it's all about survival as well as chip accumulation. And it's a fine line between the two of those. So these boys are fighting it out. So nice little tournament this one is to play in, for the simple reason there is a lot of play. It means that you're not sort of desperate at any moment, unless obviously you've had a couple of bad knocks. But generally speaking, you can play and play some proper poker, so it should be good. We can see that on this particular table, some of our regulars are on there. Cat Attack, he's just a little bit above danger point at the moment. He's got 1,745. Not really that desperate at the moment, but I'm sure he'd like a few more. A few more like Kiwin for you. Kiwiniwi. Kiwi ni for you. I won't say that too many times. That's he's got a...
said it once, mate.
I probably have. Even that might have not been right. So we've got a nice little, well, I'd say a nice raise. It's a huge raise with Ace Queen. He obviously doesn't want anyone involved here. He's now got re-raised by Cat Attack from the small blind with the jacks. It's not really much of a re-raise because he didn't have many more, but he says, well, I need to double up. Maybe you've got a pair of tens you might be doing that with. It's either a small pair or something like Ace Queen, Ace King, and he's dead right. It is in fact Ace Queen, and the ace that's here. Only a jack will help him. No, in fact it's trip. So that's the kind of luck you need if you're going to win some of this. You need to win your 50-50s, and unfortunately Cat Attack looking for a double up, slight favourite before the flop. Unfortunately, Kiwi could have a big chip lead now. He's now got 14,500 chips. He's well ahead of the game, set over 70 times a big blind, so he's in tremendous shape. Spyro 2 is playing too. Another one of the Poker Night Live regulars. So it should be a fun tournament to watch later on. Perhaps we'll see if we can zoom over to one or two of our other tables. We'll try and give you a look into some other tables as well. So we'll watch a few more hands for this for the moment. And then, if we can, we'll zoom over to some other tables. If not, we'll go over to our cash games. Always good to see a good cash game. Okay, I think we'll just do a couple more hands. So not much happening here. There's a motley crew of hands that we've got here. Ace Queen for River Dog. Now, right play here is to, well, I don't like the call. He's got a minimum raise. I think he really needs to find out it's a strong enough hand to warrant a raise, although he is basically committing himself if he does decide to raise with it, and perhaps he doesn't want to do that. Now, he's in pretty good shape here. But does he know it? Let's see. Well, there you are. You see, and that's what happens when you don't raise. Chuckle had the momentum, and he followed through with a continuation bet and took it down, which was I'm surprised because that was a pretty unscary board for an ace queen 339. So unless he's got a pocket pair, he's not going to be in too much trouble. But he thought he was, and he gave it up. So we're now watching a 50-cent $1 cash game. This is very different to what we were just watching. We were watching a moment ago a multi-table tournament. Of course, difference mainly between cash games and tournaments is, well, in cash games, the one thing to remember is that you don't have to worry about survival, because survival isn't really a factor. It is in, if you get knocked out, you can just reload. So you can, in effect, never really get knocked out. Whereas in a tournament, it is about survival, it is about accumulating chips. The blinds are rising, so you do need to keep ahead of the game, whereas in cash games, you generally can be ahead of the game just by reloading. Well, look at that. That's a lovely board there for Monty. Now, will the poker gods give us something more to be interested in? Oh, look at that. That's going to be potential trouble for Hooch. Has now hit top pair. And Hooch is not going to give this up for two, that's for sure. Well, he's trying to think, how much can I extract? What kind of hand does he have? Well, let's see. He's either got a jack with a worse kicker, or he's got a queen, and he didn't want to know, Hooch. Well, good fold there by Hooch, I thought. Very good fold indeed. Pair of nines, nice board there. Although Monty's hit a bit of this as well. He's actually got an inside, sorry, an up and down straight draw. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, or a 4 will give him his straight. Of course, so we can see that a couple of those outs have gone with Cat Attack holding them. So far, as long as Cat Attack stays in this, he'll win this, but let's see. Cat Attack, of course, making that straight on the turn there, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that was always going to be very difficult to get him off that. Did have the straight. No one's going to be folding that, I don't think, in that situation. Only one hand that can beat you, that's 9, 10. And if someone happens to pull that on you, then I think you're just a bit unlucky. So a few more regulars we've got here. We've got Snap It, who's joined the table, Portman Road, Cat Attack, who we saw in the other tournament just go out momentarily, a moment ago. Benny Pump, who seems to be playing everywhere. Hooch, obviously. Marty Doc, who's a regular here. And Russ 11, who I haven't seen a lot of. Well, we've got a nice little hand there for Benny Pump. The Royal Hand. The Royal Reaper. Seven, 8 offsuit. Well, Cat Attack will get involved with this. Let's see how he gets involved, though. You can afford to call here if he's worried about Portman Road, because it's unlikely that the board is going to present him trouble as such. What the kind of hands that can get you in trouble is just calling with nines or tens, things like that, where you get 3 overcards to your hand. Then, if the Portman Road does have a set of a pair of aces, then you're in trouble. But for the most part, pair of sixes, you're not going to get 3 undercards to you. You're going to hit your set or you're not. And look at this, Hooch playing very aggressively. And Portman Road doesn't want to know. And what's Catatech going to do? He's out of position with sixes. He knows there's only going to be one way he wins this, either hit a six. Well, could be another way. He might not think that Hooch has got the queen, or is he worried about an overpair? It's a weak bet there. Now, will Catatech pick up on it? He does, but Hooch has now picked up a nice hand. He's now got an up and down straight draw to go with his 2 overcards. Probably doesn't realise he's got 2 overcards, but certainly his up and down straight draw is looking interesting. Now, Hooch, he's really, all he's doing is pot building by putting his little bets out. Catatech might just have had enough, and he does. Surprising, really. He was getting, if he thought his sixes were good when the queen highboard, then, well, I don't really understand what the call was for. If they're good with a queen highboard, then they're probably not much worse off with a 10 hot, with a 10 comes along. So he didn't want to know. He thought that maybe he had an overpair against him. For me, it looked like a weak bet. It's very easy to say watching the cards, but it actually looked like, especially the second one, because once that turn comes along, then any potential draws start developing. So it means that if you have got a made hand already, you really want to start scaring off your opponents unless you've got a monster. So either Hooch had a monster or he had absolutely nothing. And we could see he had, we didn't have absolutely nothing. He did actually have an up and down straight draw, so he was betting it, but it looked like a weak bet. And that's the thing you've got to do. You can play technically well and still make a profit, but it's about trying to read your other players, read your opponents, read what their bets mean, try and make some sense of what those bets mean, rather than just playing technically correct all the time. Well, Benny Pump is limped with the Jack-10 suited, early position. Let's have a little look. Funny enough, he's actually got position on the table, even though he's very early. And you see, this is one of the reasons that I don't mind the limp with Jack-10 suited. I think it's a nice creative hand. The only problem is he doesn't have the momentum of a continuation bet here, but he's still going to win it anyway. But Catatech might give some resistance. Interesting to see what happens here. Will Catatech bat his up and down straight draw, or will he just wait to see what Benny Pump does? Now the pot is nice and small. He probably doesn't want to build a pot yet, Catatech. So it's going to be hard for Benny Pump to bet him out of this. So that's a good piece of play by Catatech. I think the correct thing was just to check and call, and he's done that. And he can do it again, although depends on the size of the bet. If he does make it a pot-sized bet or anywhere near that, he probably wants us to get out now that the board's paired. He's made it very close to a pot-sized bet. He's getting, 2 to a little over 2 to 1 his money. I would tend to sort of fold this now, I think. Flush draw, 2 flush draws. No, that was not a good call there, Catatech, for the simple reason you've got hearts against you, you've got clubs against you. You've now got a paired board, which could mean a house against you too. Time to get rid of it. That was probably worth a bet of 3 or something. It wasn't worth any more than that. It's just too risky. You might hit your hand and still lose. That's why the second bet wasn't a good call. The first one was great. I think you did that well. The second one was not a good one. The board was just too scary for you. So I hope that makes sense as to why it's not good to call when you've got so many things going against you. You might make your hand and still lose. No good chasing a draw if there are potential better hands out there. It just defeats the whole object. Well, Ace is going to take this one down, and he does indeed. Russ 11. Well, we've got one genuine hand out of this bunch. That's Portman Road with the Ace-King. And he's made it 4. That's about right, I think. 3 or 4 is okay in that situation. 350, 3, 354. All good stuff. Pretty much ABC poker at the moment. That's the thing with cash games. If you are intending on playing a lot of cash games, you're new to the show, want to get involved in the act, and you want to play some cash games, remember that cash games, whilst they might be entertaining when you first start off, they can be a bit of a grind. So you've got to prepare yourself mentally for that. They are a grind. There's not lots of pushing and shoving going on. Not at these levels generally. It is a grind. And that's the way typically you want to play them to get the most out of it. We've got an inside straight Joe for Hooch. Not a good one because there are 3 clubs out there and he doesn't have one of them. And Portman Road puts a little bit out there. Simple fold for Hooch. So it's got a bad draw. Don't mind chasing the odd inside straight draw, but not with 3 clubs on the board when you haven't got one in your hand. No, it's just a waste of time. And he does the right thing. What have we got here? Well, nothing really. I think that Marty Doc is going to get a little walk through his big blind. Doing well, Cass?
Yep.
Silly question, really, isn't it? Are you doing well?
Well, it's a tough game, this one. Very tough.
Yeah, you certainly got a motley crew there, haven't you?
Mm.
Motley bunch. You wouldn't
It's
want to sit down on that table, I don't think.
That's the toughest game I've played, Beat the Presenter.
Yeah, if I saw that lot sit at the table, I think I'll just get up. So, 6-7 suited. And that's the important thing. And we were talking about, you know, we can talk about hands and how you should play them and all that sort of thing, but there is something that really happens more importantly than that, and that is, it is important to actually watch out for the tables that you're playing at. You don't really want to be sitting down with lots of good players on the table. It defeats the whole object, especially in a cash game, because you won't beat the rake. The rake will just take you. And that's the important thing to watch out. If you are playing in a cash game, and there are lots of good players around, whilst you might be slightly superior, but on assuming that you're at least you know, about the same as the other guys, then you know, there's no real edge in a game. Not if there's just 1 or 2 loose players on there. That might not be enough, because all you're going to do is share one of those guys' winnings, which are not guaranteed anyway, between 6 players. So very hard to beat a game like that. So game selection is imperative. Make sure if you are going to play a cash game that you choose one that, you know, there are a few donators on the table. No point sitting at a table where there aren't. Well, we're watching a 50-cent $1 cash game. Maximum buy-in for this is $100. Minimum buy-in is $10, or anywhere in between. We can see that currently Hooch is made a nice little profit of $54, 54% up. Benny Pump, 24% up. Monty, 34% up, $34 in other words. Portman Road, lots of people are up on this table. In fact, there's not that many down, so I assume that the ones that are down have either left the table or have reloaded. So it's going to be difficult to wrestle some of this money off some of these guys. I know, you know, Snap It won't give it away too easily. Nor will Portman Road, nor Cat Attack. Monty I'm not that familiar with. Benny Pump, I've seen him a few times, not overly familiar with him at this stage. And Marty Doc is a fairly solid player. Not sure solid's quite the right word, but certainly you won't see him give away his chips that easily. So and we can see there that this gives us the percentage of pre-flop folds. We've got Russ 11 with 82%. He's the tightest player on the table. And all the way down the bottom, our chip leader, Hooch, who is the loosest player on the table. Well, he's playing loose, isn't he? 47% of hands he's playing. That's a lot. That's even a lot by my standards. I'm actually in a region of around Monty. No, actually, I'm in the region of Cat Attack, I'd say. About 31, 32%, something in that area. That's where I like to play. That's where I like to be amongst. Don't want to overplay too many hands, but don't really want to play more than that. 32% is plenty. We can see that Benny Pump is 54% of hands won. And if you can get anywhere over 40%, then you're doing generally pretty well. And most of these guys are over 40%, so they're all doing pretty well. And, well, Snap It is obviously picking his moments because he's only won 28%, but he's ahead of the game. So, well done, Snap It. Nothing here, apart from Monty with the flush. Can't see him how he's going to extract any money out of Portman Road, though. He's going to try. Giving it a little dwell up, a little moody dwell up, saying, shall I bet? How much shall I bet? Well, unfortunately, Portman Road's got absolutely nothing, so he's not going to call you. He won't call you for 2, I don't think. Having said that,
then he swore there.
Glad you didn't, Cass.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Cass, if on the count of 3 you can swear. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Beep!
Don't, because I was going to. I thought you were going to do something more spectacular than that.
So, Benny Pump with the ace-queen. He's raised out to 4. And Marty Doc said, I think I've got better than you. And he has. He's got the aces. So, nice big raise by Marty Doc. And Benny Pump can say, you know what, ace-queen, let's forget about that. That's not a good hand. And it's not when you've been raised that amount. He's put a nice, healthy bet, Benny Pump. He's given a nice, healthy raise. And he doesn't want to know. I don't blame you. Nicely put down, Benny Pump. Very easy fold. It might look easy from here, but it's not that easy, I can promise you. Well, we've got that 10 Jack of Spades is back again. This time it's moved to Hooch. He's having a little limp. He's going to have a little look, see what goes on. And we've got James's favourite hand, King Queen. Marty Doc is playing it the Banin way, raising it. And I think that's a better situation. I don't want to be multi-way with this hand. I don't want to be up against 3 or 4 players. And if I just call, that's likely what's going to happen. I'm going to be up against 4 players, and I just don't want to do it. I don't want to be up against 4 players with King Queen. Now, this is great little flop here. 8-4-2 for the King Queen, that is. And I say it's a great little flop because he's got a king high flush. He's got an 8 high board. He's going to have 2 people. Well, I was going to say, Hooch. Now, should he have raised? Interesting. Might have fancied a raise there from Martin. Difficult one. I think he wouldn't mind a little re-raise there. But Hooch is a creative player, and I like his style, I must admit. He saw that board, says, no, I've got no part of it. Let's see if I can win it without... I've got one person checking. He's probably got nothing. All I've got to do is beat Marty Doc. And if I can do that, I'll win this one. And how Hooch actually takes the lead by hitting that 10 on the turn. And he's just value betting this. And I don't think that was necessarily the right call, unless he thought that Hooch, that Marty Doc was on an 8. And I don't think he could really put him on an 8 there, because if he was having something like 8-9 and he was calling, then I think it's likely that he would have raised him on that flop to find out where he was a bit more. I don't think he's likely to call with an 8-9, because he knows that he doesn't really want to see a turn card, which is likely to be an overcard to his pair. So it was more likely that he had some kind of draw, which meant that, or he actually had the flush in the first place. So it meant that probably the best way of playing that for Hooch on that river would have been just a check and call. Maybe give Marty Doc a bit of rope to hang himself, and bet out on it, and Hooch can just call if he does try that. So dangerous play there by Hooch, I thought, a little bit. And if he did have someone who's aggressive behind him with Marty Doc, he might have fancied a raise there. He knows that he can't win without raising it, so he might have tried that. Certain players will try that to try and represent more than they have. And then it makes it an uncomfortable call for Hooch, depending on what the bet is. Still, at the end of the day, he got the money, so that's all that matters. So, pair of 10s for Snap It. So, Portman Road with the ace-7. Cat attack. Don't like the call with from Portman Road there, to be honest. He's in middle position. It's a nasty hand. You just want to dump that Portman Road. I don't know why you want to get involved with that. Because you see, this is what happens. You limp in with it. You think, OK, I'll limp in. And now you get minimum raise. Now you have to call the minimum raise. You're now getting 4.5 to 1 on your money. You're out of position, 5.5 to 1 on your money. It's very hard to lay it down now. So now you get drawn into sort of a bad hand. And now look what happens. You get top pair. Oh, horrible. You get top pair and you get done by the set of 6s. I've got to say that bet was a bit weak for me, Portman. I know you don't want to throw too much behind this, but you need to find out where you are, and 2 isn't really asking any questions. You need to, if you put a bet out of 6 there, I know you don't want to put 6 into this pot, but if you put a bet out of 5 or 6 in this pot, basically, if anyone calls you, they've got a decent hand behind them. Oh, that's just curtains. Look at this, Cass. This is going to be curtains here. He's hit a house of 6s now. 6 is full of 7s, and the guy's hit trip 7s with the ace. So, Cat Attack is loving this. He's just thinking, how can I get more? And Portman Road's thinking he's loving it too. He thinks, wow, how can I take this guy's money?
Oh.
Yeah, very hard to escape now that he's hit that hand. Oh, this will slow them down though. Well, in fact, it won't slow down the Cat Attack because he's got the house, but it will slow down Portman Road, so he's likely to lose no more money in this pot now.
Yeah, it actually eats into Cat Attack's earnings a bit, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's done Portman Road a favour and really hindered Cat Attack. So he's 20 and he's thinking, well, you got the 8. Surely you haven't been waiting there for me with an 8. And he's thinking, you haven't sat there for 8 with 8-9 or something, have you? But then thinking, would you minimum raise with 8-9? What could you be minimum raising with, he's thinking, pre-flop? And that was an inspired fold. Well, I've got to say, that's a fantastic fold, Portman. It's a shame, Portman Road. It's a shame you didn't actually do that pre-flop. That's really the hand you didn't want to call with pre-flop. Ace-7, middle position. You hit the hand as it shows you hit the hand that you want to hit. That's probably really the best hand you could hit for an ace-7. And in the end, all he does is does money with it. Mm. So that's why ace-7, not good. I don't even want to call there with ace-7 suited. I might do with ace-7 suited. Look for a flush and be very careful. But then you just get drawn into it. You know, someone puts a little minimum raise, and then someone calls, and then you're having to call it down, and before you know it, you're suckered into this pot that you really shouldn't be involved with in the first place. And that's the problem when you do call with these kind of hands, isn't it? You get suckered into situations by calling the first bet.
Yeah.
You just having to call all the way because it's now correct to call.
Tom and I had a long conversation about this, and particularly in tournaments, in the later stages of tournaments, when you get into draws with the later stages of tournaments,
Yeah.
where you don't have any big bets in your stack. And Tom's feeling is that you should still play it by the pot odds. And my feeling is, suddenly you're out of the tournament simply by playing a series of pot odds.
Yeah, I don't think you can. No, you can't play pot odds in tournaments. You can to a degree, but I know Harrington talks about playing pot odds as part of his game, but I can't see. I think there's too much emphasis on playing pot odds in tournaments.
Sorry, Mark, I'm really exhausted. That tournament's completely taken it out of me.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have been playing a lot of hands.
It just was really exhausting.
Well, if it's that exhausting, I'll be interested to watch it. I didn't really glimpse much of what you were doing there, but
it's the best Beat the Presenter I've played.
Excellent. Okay, well that'll be really good fun to watch later on. So we're going to be watching that, viewers, at just after our next break, a little after midnight. So stay tuned for that. And let me give you a little reminder. Every Sunday, we've had one so far. There are 4 more of the qualifiers for the Poker Bowl qualifiers, that is. The winners of those Poker Bowls will play in a semi-final, who will end up playing in a final in our studios in London. So you saw the last series last time, so that was all pretty good fun and pretty exciting stuff. With the winner, I think, getting a ticket to Monte Carlo. I'm not sure what the end prize is in this one, but if it's the same prize, certainly worth going for. So we'll be featuring it here on Poker Night Live. It'll be this Sunday at 8 o'clock if you want to play, and we'll be showing the delayed feed, obviously, when we kick off on air, about 10 o'clock. So it should be lots of fun. There's also a great tournament tomorrow in our $10 multi-table tournament, the one that we'll be watching later on. That one has... that one should be exciting to watch because it should get quite a lot of people, I think, for the simple reason that the sponsors are actually adding in $2,000 into it, which always means that it's an exciting game to watch because of the extra people that are involved and the extra chips that you get. Because you also get extra chips in that one, Cass.
Do you?
Yeah, you get 2,000 chips.
Mate, I'm playing in it. I'm binning this girl.
So Monty has hit a very nice hand for him, although he's got a couple of clubs there to worry about, so he doesn't want to start building this pot up, otherwise it's only going to stay at 5. So I don't mind this little bet, although I can't see how he's going to get called. It's just unfortunate for Monty that no one's got anything. Yeah, you're just unfortunate, Monty. I think your bet was right. I think you needed to start building that pot. And whilst we can see the cards and know that no one's going to call, it's just a shame because you did the right thing. It was, in my opinion, I think you just needed to put some money into that pot to start building it. Otherwise, you're going to end up on a turn of the river with $5 in your hand. And everyone had a free draw at clubs or whatever they were drawing for. But not to be. Didn't we want to have a little look for $2? And unless someone had the club draw there, I dare say they probably couldn't. Maybe if someone with a Jack Queen might have had a little look, but that was the only other hand that potentially could get a look from. Well, look, he's done it again. This time he has got a draw, so let's see if he plays it the same way. And the funny thing is, because he didn't get paid last time, he might think, no, I won't do it this time. No, he is. He's still following through with the same tactic, and that's good. So whereas he didn't get paid last time, this time he will get paid. He might even get Hooch to chase him on the backdoor flush potential. No, he decides not to, not with a paired board, and I don't blame Hooch. That's a good fold. Portman Road, though, will definitely have a look, I'm sure, with his king-high flush draw. Now, will he check raise, or will he try to slow down the betting, or will he... Oh, he's hit it. Okay, I think we'll just take this one last hand and we'll do some emails.
Well, I'll tell you what it is, Mark.
Let's see how this hand develops, Cass.
Okay, mate, sorry, mate.
Because we've got, it's quite interesting because we've got a straight draw plus 3 tens. Who's still got an out to win with, or a couple of outs to win, with a 9, a 6 or a 10 comes, or a 7. then that'll give him a house or quads. He's hit the worst of it. 6, he's hit the one card he really didn't want to hit, and that's the 8, which now gives him a straight, but doesn't give him the winning hand. So he's improved his hand, he just didn't improve it enough. And he's done, he's probably gone for the check call here. Let's hope he hasn't gone for a check raise. I hope Monty's not gone for a check raise. That board looks pretty scary, and whilst he has got a straight, he probably thinks that's good, but let's see what he does. Well, he folds. What kind of a fold was that? That was unbelievable.
Do you think it was a good fold or a bad fold?
Whew. Is it a good fold or a bad fold? That's a good question. How can you put him on a flush? That's the thing. You know, whilst he was calling him.
Or a full house. I mean,
yeah.
There's a pair on board, there's a flush on board. Oh, he's a good fold.
You think so?
Yeah, I think.
Overall, it's a good fold?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think he's gone, he wouldn't do this without it.
Yeah. Well, it certainly was a good fold in that situation, an inspired fold. Fantastic fold there, in fact, by Monty. That was a great play to fold a straight in that situation. You know, his hand improved and he still folded. That is a great fold. I've got to say that is a very, very good fold. To be able to do that, the more I think about it, the more I think it's a good fold.
I think it's a good fold.
Yeah, because a lot of players won't fold a straight.
Yeah.
You know, he had a nice hand there, and he still folded it. So, yeah, very good.
Got to be able to put down a good hand in poker. Now, I'll tell you why we've come back in Vision, folks, because I'm so exhausted I can't focus on the game. Seriously.
You're exhausted after 40 minutes of poker?
That has struck me.
What happened to this class that used to play in Vegas for all what
the Beat the Presenters are like. My heart is going faster in that Beat the Presenter than it was, playing for $10,000 in the Heads Up.
Cass,
seriously.
Cass, I've got to tell you, seriously, mate, need to get your priorities. A $20 sit and go is
I know you
it's not even your money.
I know you don't have one, but I've got a record to keep up.
And that's why you're house pounding, okay.
Okay, now I'll tell you what it is. So we come back to do some emails, and it's been a really interesting response to this whole subject, because what I want to say to you is you've got to stay tuned for the third part, because that Beat the Presenter has more history in it, right, in terms of the last 3-hand history than most tournaments I've played in my life. Okay, so it's really worth watching. But we've got some emails on this subject. So Pete says, "Hi dude, still loving the show. I think Caspar is correct. I've been on the receiving end of constant check re-raise, yes. And it really did get under my skin, sometimes to the point of me going on self-destruct for no good reason. So this play worked on me for a while. The way I stopped being victim to this type of play was to play so tight that it hurts, folding several hands at a time, even to the point of folding some reasonable hands that could be taken the pot. Mad, I know. This not only put his or her focus on another player, but also gave me a lot of respect at the table, as the rest of the table thought that I was now only playing very good hands, which came in handy when it mattered. That's really interesting. I like the whole mind games that go with poker, and even when I've lost a sit and go, I take out what I've learned during that game. The trick is to remember that all the tricks and the best ways to learn these tricks is to have them played on you. Good point. Email from Swansea Lad, brackets John, says, "Hi guys, Swansea Lad here. About earlier in the sit and go when you were saying about pushing all in a few times, I found that when the blinds were coming around to you, I had to push all in to accumulate chips to carry on going in the game. Any thoughts of what else I could have done? Great show, big fan." We'll come back to that. There's a third email on it here from Jimbot. He says, "Hi guys, great show as ever. With regard to getting annoyed at the table, I remember one game where I kept going over the top of a particular player. My opponent typed, 'Do that again and I'll dig up your granny and put her on your doorstep.'" There's a lot of this stuff going, isn't there? Remember, it's very sinister. Last time we were on. Needless to say, on the very next round, I got the rockets, went over the top, and he went all in. Manna from heaven, I'm still looking for my granny. The point I really wanted to approach with, however, is this. I'm fairly new to the game. Having got hooked after being given a poker set at Christmas, I watch your programme frequently and read as much as possible. I believe my game has improved rapidly. I've tried all the variations in Hold'em, but much prefer multi-table tournaments. I often hear this is the hardest way to make a profit in poker, but I find up to 3 hours play for an affordable entry fee is for me, and despite my relative inexperience, I'm well in profit, having won 6 of my last 100 multi-table tournaments, top 5 and a further 120. That's very good. What is your opinion of multi-table tournament play as a source of income against sit-and-goes or cash tables? Well, interestingly, we use different language, but I think we share exactly the same views about this, which is the whole how long the medium term is. I mean, if you've won 6 out of 100, that's brilliant. No one's going to take that away from you, but that does involve getting the cards, doesn't it?
It does involve getting the cards, and I think it does depend. I mean, I must admit, the ones that you do have on these tables are particularly good because they do give you so much play.
Sure.
So you can make a few mistakes, you can get a few bad beats, and even after those bad beats, you still got chips to play with. Whereas in a lot of these multi-table tournaments, you get 2 bad beats, and you're all walking out. That's the problem. Whereas on these ones that we see here, they have got so much play that you get 2 bad beats or 2 bad situations, where you get cold decked, and you still get in a situation whereby you can still come back from that. So that's the great thing about that. And if you're playing these, then I think there's a bit more chance for you to equaling out that variance that you do get in multi-table tournaments. Yeah, but no, pretty much just agree with what you said on that.
But interesting, people have found, I mean, as I said, the whole going on tilt thing and getting angry with a particular player is a small part of it, but this sort of recent history, I can't wait for you to see this sit and go, because honestly, it's full of this recent history. And it's not even the last 3 or 4 hands, it's just the previous hand.
Okay.
It's just exactly how 2 players, basically me and another player, different players in each situation, feel about each other in just the previous hand.
Right.
Very interesting.
Okay.
So
that'll be good to watch.
Yeah, it'll be good to watch.
So one of the things from Swansea lad, he sent an email, didn't he, about going all in. He was playing that sit and go.
Yeah.
I think the things that you were doing were for me anyway, were okay. I don't mind the all-ins to accumulate chips the way you're doing it. The one thing I would say is that you want to make sure that when you are doing it, the person who you're doing it against can fold. He's got chips behind him to fold. And if you're doing it in a situation where you're just, in effect, calling, which I think you more or less were with that hand, I can't remember even what the hand was now. It was A4, I think, against A6 or something. The problem being, or Ace2 against Ace4. The problem being is that when you do get into that situation, if you know the guy's going to call you, then you've lost one of your pieces of ammunition, and that is to get the guy to fold. So the all-in move is great when it's got 2 ways of winning. 1, get the other guy to fold. 2, by your hand either standing up or outdrawing the other guy. And you had one of those gone, and that was the problem with that. So I think everything you've done up to that point is fine. You just should have picked on someone else or gone all in against someone else who could, afford to fold that hand.
Yeah, but I'm not sure he had enough chips to make anyone fold actually on that occasion, Mark.
I think over 1,000.
Yeah, but the big blinds were.
Well, I think 163.20. And if you've got sort of 1,800, you call with a marginal hand. I don't know. Difficult one, I know.
Some would, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
but certainly what I would say is that even if you pick on someone else who's got, say, 1,200, then at least he's got more fold equity there in that one than the other guy who's almost certainly going to call. No, so sure. Whilst there's no guarantee that he'll fold either, at least you're saying that he's got a chance of folding, whereas that guy had almost 0 chance of folding. He maybe had 5% chance of folding. If he had 7-2, he might have folded, and that's about it. So thanks for your email, Swansea. I think that was a good email there. Played well up to that point, just one little mistake.
Here's one for you, Mark. Okay. Email from Dan in Essex says, "Evening, guys. Good to see the A-team back together." That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, very good.
My question is for Mark, really. Oh, well, that said. I want to install some artful play into my game, so definitely not one for me. So I spent today playing loose. My question is, how many outs after the turn would give me a significant advantage when trying to hit a gut shot straight, flush, full house, etc.? Would I be right in saying above 8 outs, or maybe a bit higher? I know it depends on size of stack, pot odds, but mathematically, what would you say? Okay, well, this is... you're actually contradicting yourself, and certainly you're contradicting the way I type of play. I'm not really... I'm not like Cass in as much that Cass is very quick with working out outs and James and that sort of thing, and they'll work it out perfectly. Out James?
And plus...
I can never work out James.
No, we can never do that. I don't think anyone can, not even James. But my point is you've got to remember, if you're playing online, the first thing to remember is you only have 15 seconds, okay? You have 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and you've got to push that button quick, okay? Now, to sit there and start working out what kind of outs you've got, I'm not sure that I would be playing that way. And the simple reason, I'm not sure, I know I wouldn't be playing that way. And the reason I'm not playing that way is because I'm thinking of other things. I'm thinking of the kind of hands that you could have, the kind of chance of me putting you off the hand, and whether I can represent something either there or at a later street. And that's really the kind of my style of playing. It's not really about working what sort of outs I've got. So I might not have enough outs, but if I feel that I can push you off the hand later, for whatever reason, it might be because the board is 2-2-6 and I'm in the small blind and you're on the button and I just check and call. I think to myself, okay, well, if I had a 2 in my hand, that's exactly what I'd be doing. So I might be playing it as if I've got a 2 in order to try and push you off on the turn or the river. I won't decide that till I see the way the turn is played or what I feel the turn card is. So that's the point about it. It's about having creativity into your play and not working out so many outs. By the same token, it's good to have those outs as a backup. So, for example, if I do have an inside straight draw as a backup, I might take that into consideration with my betting. I might be a little bit more aggressive if I think I've got some backup with it. So it really depends on not so much on outs, but what I can make of the situation rather than the outs. What about you, Cass, in those situations?
Well, I would argue that what you're doing is you're making a gut-level calculation about, first of all, so if we draw a tree, right, so here's where we are right now, and you're saying, right, down that tree, what is the percentage chance that he'll fold? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, you don't put a figure on it, but your gut is saying, is it
I probably do
80?
put a figure in it, not so much in a physical figure, I'll say,
that's what
but
I'm
my
saying.
gut is putting a
gut,
figure
that's
on it.
what I'm saying. So you're saying, is it this much, is it this much, is it this much? So that's that part of the tree. Because if he folds, I've won the hand, right? So down that stalk of the tree, he's folded, I've won the hand. Then there's a second stalk of the tree, right? And the second stalk of the tree is if he calls. And if he calls, that then bifurcates into, if he calls, do I win? And if he calls, do I lose? And in fact, that's an all-in call, because of course the next is, if it goes to the next street, what happens then? But you can't do that. The thing is, Stewie Younger would. That's the thing. Stewie Younger would to 2 decimal places. That's why he was in a different league, because he would literally go through all of that to 2 decimal places. So once you've done that stalk, which is the fold equity, which is what Graham was talking about, you then get to this second stalk, which is, well, if he calls, I've got this much chance if he's got these hands, and I've got this much chance if he's got these hands. Yeah. So overall, in theory, not if you had 15 seconds, but in theory, you have an expectation from that situation. I'm going to win it 80% of the time when he folds. I'm going to win it 16% of the time when he calls. I'm going to lose it 4% of the time when he calls. And that gives you an expectation. None of those figures could be completely different. And that expectation could be positive. In other words, if this happens 100,000 times, I'm going to win money. And if this happens 100,000 times, I'm going to lose money. And the point is, what a great player is doing is having a much more accurate assessment of this stalk here. Yeah, great player also knows the maths for this stalk here, but a really great player is, and it's actually in the way that he executes it, he wants to maximise this stalk here. Yeah. For most cases, that's not entirely true in all cases. But great players need to know the maths of the cards, but they also need to understand at a gut level, and ideally at a more conscious level, the maths of the fold. And that's why something like Poker Tracker can help you, because it can tell you how often this guy folds in certain situations.
Of course, a lot of this stuff is easier to do live, isn't it, than it is to do online, because of the fact of limitations of time.
Absolutely, but I would argue that it comes down to my old air pilot point, which is what an air pilot does is he drills and he drills and he drills and he drills and he drills, and most airline pilots will go through most of their career and never have to deal with the issues that they drill. Yeah. Oh, incidentally, Graham, that guy who some of you may remember who was on with me and Tom, was on the Virgin plane. Remember the Virgin plane where an air stewardess said we were all going to die? Yeah. He was on that plane. And apparently, wings are designed to bend by 80 degrees right, before they snap off. And on that plane, the turbulence was so bad that they bent by 65 degrees. In other words, when people looked out of the window, all they could see was wing. It was that bent. So the point is, that pilot, apparently it's the worst turbulence in 8 years on a transatlantic flight. That pilot was having to execute things that he had drilled and drilled and drilled and drilled, and most pilots will never experience in their lifetime. Yeah. And that's what a poker player is doing, I think, is he's drilling and drilling and drilling, he's understanding, he's reading and reading and reading, so that when he gets into that situation, he can do as much as possible in 15 seconds. And the point is, I think the amount that you can do in 15 seconds should go up and up and up during the course of your life. And I think the other thing is that dealing with stress at a poker table, which I didn't do very well in that Beat the Presenter, dealing with stress at a poker table is all part of A, doing as much as you can in 15 seconds, because it's about clarity of mind, but B, having access to as much information as possible. Right. Okay? Because I think one of the things that Beat the Presenter has taught me is that actually your progression in poker is very much a progression of being calm, dealing with situations, being able to talk to people, being able to take in information, and that's a progression from the point of, everything's happening so fast I don't know where I am. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Of course, yeah. So I think those two progressions are important in poker. Dealing with getting as much information as possible, going into the mix, processing that information as possible, and of course the third thing, which is executing what you know deep down to be right. Because it's very often that we do all those calculations, we know that the certain move is right, and we don't do it because we're idiots. And then we look back and go, if only. Yeah, or we do the wrong one. Yeah, exactly. We actually do the opposite. In fact. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it happens all too often. We don't have a trust in our judgment. Got to back your decisions. Yeah, it's a skill in itself. Yeah, you always give a concise answer. Well, not really. That lasts 5 minutes. That's what I mean. It's very concise. Anyway, Anyway, let's move on. We've got some more emails for you. However, we're going to have to take a little break now, so don't go too far away, because we'll be right back. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles, Banin, and the ever-present Caspar Berry.
It's been a good show so far, Caspar. We've had a lot of stuff to talk about, and the emails are pouring through. For those viewers not familiar with our email numbers and text numbers and stuff like that, let me just give those to you. The way you can get in contact with the show is as follows. First one is text. You can text the show poker 84222. What you want to do is text the word poker to 84222. That's the number. Put your message after that and followed by your name. It would be very nice indeed. You can also email the show poker@pokernightlive.co.uk, and why not have a look at our website? Got a great website, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Don't forget there's the Poker Bowl qualifiers this Sunday, so that's on at 8 o'clock, so that should be a great show to watch. We're going to be featuring it on our Sunday night show, so if you're around, watch it. Should be lots of good stuff happening. There's going to be a final which will be played live in our studio in the weeks to come, so you can also watch out for that and maybe get yourself on the Poker Zone. In the meantime, we've got tons and tons of emails. So what should we do first? Should we do the emails or should we do the Beat the Presenter tournament? What do you think?
Can we do the Beat the Presenter and get it out of the way?
Shall we do that?
Because it's really stressing me out.
Okay. Well, this depends on our boys at the back. Are they ready for that?
Can you do it, guys?
Okay. All right, let's do that then. Let's go for the Beat the Presenter tournament. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. First hand of the tourney.
And look at me!
King, Queen.
In the unraised pot.
In the unraised pot.
Or is it? Oh, look,
think
Rat Blue's got King Queen as well.
Yeah, I don't think...
I didn't know that.
No, I don't think QP is going to let you see a flop, though. Not a cheap one, anyway.
No, well, I remember what happens here.
Yeah,
and I don't think
so
I'm
do
giving too much away by saying I fold. Perhaps I am.
Yeah, he puts out an interesting bet, doesn't he?
There we are. Side of the devil.
Yeah.
And Rat Blue says... Hello, he says.
Yeah.
And he raises it up with King Queen, which wouldn't be my move.
Yeah, I don't actually blame him with that, because QP's an aggressive player, isn't he?
Yeah, I suppose so, but I still think you don't need to raise it up.
No, he could have just flat called, yeah, he's got position on him. Well, this is an interesting situation. What's QP going to do here? He must like that board. I was going to say, oh, that's a good raise, isn't it? Very good raise.
Yeah, it is, actually.
I was going to say that's a good board for an ace-jack. Not too many cards you have to worry about, and he check-raised him beautifully. Well done, QP. Very nice play indeed. You thought that board probably didn't help you, unless you got a pocket pair. I'm winning here. And he read it perfectly. Very nice play, I like that. Double top with the ace-10. Nothing for you to sort of comment on really at the moment.
No.
5-4, that's a sort of a...
It's quite a slow start, I should warn you.
Okay.
But it's worth watching from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, Rat Blue wants to... He's lost a few chips, and now he's perhaps just put a minimum raise. I don't really like it. He's got away with it, though.
There's no point, though, is there? Great, win 30 with a pair of sevens.
No. I'm not saying he put a big raise out, but I think he needs to build a pot with something like that. But he's never going to get much out of it in that situation.
Shaky's decided to smooth call with a pair of queens, which...
Quite like that play, too.
I don't.
Don't you? I like
No,
it. I quite like being sneaky at the beginning.
I know, and I've said many times, if I'm going to be sneaky, then that's where I'll do it. But I'd actually...
So you're changing your mind now?
I'd still pop in a little raise.
Yeah, I don't mind either. You know, I don't mind either.
No,
I'm happy to... I'm trying to look for generate something. I'm quite happy to free... See, with a hand like queens, I'm quite happy to throw it away if I get really scary bored.
Do you know what? I don't... Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't want to underestimate Shaky. See, the only reason why I don't like it is that if a player doesn't have the discipline to fold on the flop, then it's dangerous. If you do have the discipline to fold on the flop, then it's fine. But that's the only problem is you can lose money with queens when the flop comes down with a king and you can't release the hand.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing.
And then you start writing the chat box, and oh god, it always happens with queens. So Shaky, I'm not commenting on you at all, mate. I not at all.
Well, be interesting to see what happens here. He's got a bet out of 20, and he needs to find out where he is, and he does the right thing for me. He's raised, and he's actually isn't that funny? Glenn Tyrion has actually done QP a favour there.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't bet,
yeah,
Shaky now bets. QP probably thinks, hold on a sec, that doesn't look a very good board for you.
Yeah.
And he now either calls or raises.
Yeah.
So he's actually got Glenn Tyrion by default has saved QP. It's amazing how this game works sometimes. And Snaky with the mother of all hands, well, practically.
How well do you know Snaky and Shaky?
Oh, not well at all.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not that good with the names of these guys, and in terms of how they play. I'm always sort of trying to comment. I mean, I know how QP plays because, and then one or two others, when they're very close to my style of playing.
All right.
Or they're close-ish to my style of playing. But the others that don't play in my style, I tend not to try to remember them when I'm commentating. Not greatly, anyway. There's one or two that come to mind, ones that are extremely tight, or they've done certain things in the past that I thought unusual or a very unique way of playing. But why do you ask that?
Just because well, you'll see, they're two. Well, actually, it's more Shaky and QP and double top, but Snaky I couldn't really get a handle on. But those three players, QP, Shaky, and Snaky, QP, Shaky, and double top. In all three cases, we have quite an interesting. I raise their blinds quite a lot, and I raise them with legitimate but not great hands. And in all three cases, this issue of the last time I did that comes into play.
Okay, well, this will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting from that point of view, I think.
Well, we've got certainly interesting stuff going here. Now, Raplu's put a big bet out there, and this is a bit of a dilemma for QP. And I say it's a bit of a dilemma because he's done it from first position. Now, well, what do you make of that? Interesting fold, isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting fold.
See, and again, I'm okay with it because it's the early stages, and why lose a lot of chips when you can just unless you hit your 10 in this marginal situation. Yeah, that's fine. You could call and try and hit your 10, and you'd bust him in that situation. So you say, what 8.5 times I'd bust him.
That, in a way, is more of an acceptable play to actually fold with those 10s, I think. This is going to sound a bit crazy, but it might be a better play to fold with 10s than it is to fold with 6s. For the simple reason is that if he has raised with queens or jacks or kings or aces in that position, and it comes a low flop, then you've had it with your 10s. You know, you're going to commit a lot of chips to this. Unless obviously you hit your 10. Whereas with a pair of 6s, that's never going to be the case. You're never going to have a low, generally, you're never going to have a low flop that's going to, make you put more money into it unless you hit the 6.
I'll be honest with you, I think Shaky's call there with the Queen 10 suit is the kind of call which I think loses money in sit and goes.
Yeah, what was the raise pre-flop?
It was just 60, but, it's 60 chips, it's 6% of your stack.
Yeah. Would you have been tempted to call if it was Jack 10?
A bit more, yeah, but I like to see those hands for a call on the button, and I'll see much worse hands for a call. Yeah. But I don't like to expose 6% of my stack with.
Oh, look, you would have hit it as well
with a poor hand like Queen 10.
Yeah, and this is the problem, isn't it? Because the Queen 10 has to hit that middle card always.
Yeah,
which is going to be very hard
to make it straight. I mean, it could make two pairs, but I just don't think you're going to make it often enough, and particularly not into two players. Into one player.
Two pairs is not safe, is it?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No. But what I'm saying is, into two players, it's not even like check, bet and take it. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to hit your hand. So why would you do that with Queen 10 on the button? And I just think there are just things that you can do in tournaments that are loss-making plays, and I think that's one of them.
And do you think the fact that it was a Queen 10 suited had any bearing on it? The fact that it was a suited?
It shouldn't have.
Right.
I can't tell you whether he did take that into account, but he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So here I am with 8-3 in the big blind. And I'll be honest with you, normally in poker you think, well, we've only played 10 hands, so what are you worried about? In these sit and goes, I'm thinking, God, we played 10 hands. And I still haven't had anything. What's going to happen now?
And you're going to get your favourite customer raising, no doubt. He does. And not a lot you can do with that hand, so simple fold. And QP's probably just happy to take the blinds as well, I guess. Well, got one genuine hand there, ace-queen. 5-6, bit too early to have a little sneak preview of the flop from that position. Too many players behind you could raise, just wasted 20 chips, so you decided to fold, and I don't mind that. Shaky, what's he going to do? Made it a bit big for my liking. What do you think? Bit of a big bet? 100?
It is a bit of a big bet, but in terms of mixing it up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a lot in it really, 60, 80, 100. I mean, my preference in that situation from that position would have been 80, but it's neither here nor there. For a quick succession of folds there. And Snaky decides to, I'll be tempted to limp here, I must tell you, with the King-Queen. Not usually, most of the times you're saying, well, Mark, you were arguing with James about raising with King-Queen, now you're saying limp.
See,
well,
this is why I think your argument between the two of you is completely fallacious, because you then went on to have a tournament where James raised twice with King-Queen, and you talk about calling with King-Queen now, which comes back to my point, which is both of you are going to do, I reckon, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, exactly the same thing because the situation will dictate it.
Well, we were talking about more specific situations.
Right.
He was talking about limping in from seat 4. On the assumption that the small blind is seat 1.
Yeah.
So he was talking about limping in with King-Queen from seat 4, and I was saying, no, I wouldn't do that.
Right, blue, raising it up now. The blinds have just doubled, so the blinds are 60.
Yeah, curious raise there. He's what has he got? He's got 4 people behind him, and the Glentour had just gone all in. And now that was an inspired raise there. What was he thinking? I mean, Rat Blue didn't have a lot of fold equity there, you know, unless he had a really poor hand, which he had quite a poor hand, and he didn't really want to spend another couple of hundred chips or another 150 chips on King 8. So I don't blame him for doing that, for folding there. But that was very dangerous from Glentirran to do that with 6-2. There's a good chance that most players would have called in that situation. You know, I think had Rat Blue have had Queen Jack, Queen 10, he'd probably been more tempted to call than the King 8.
What is Glentirran doing calling that?
Snaky's
Snaky's just raised it to 80, and he's called from the small blind with 6-2.
I don't know, well, that 6-2 was, I think, really said quite a lot. That was a desperate move, really. And I'm not sure that what, you know, it would have been, I don't think many players could have made that move of 6-2 in that situation.
Well, okay, but not let it pass, but I'm concerned about small blind play because I think players do play the small blind very badly. It's been raised up to twice the big blind. You've got nothing, and you're going to call it. Now, you know, you're calling from first position just because you've put some money into the pot. The pot odds are still extortionate for you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's not the issue, though, Cass. For me, the issue there is that he's only got 217 chips.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah,
obviously,
absolutely.
if he's got 1,500, for me, then calling another 4-2, 10-6, have a look, see if he can catch something, maybe bluff on the turn.
Okay, so here I've got a pair of 8s, and I raise it up to 120, and QP has nothing at all. Watch him dwell, Mark. No, I agree with you. I agree. That's the point I'm making about the stack size. He's got nothing to play with,
no,
and yet he makes this.
No, you can't do that.
Ridiculous
Absolutely.
call.
No, that was.
Watch him dwell. He does not want me to steal this blind at all, but this is interesting. It's an interesting dwell because it makes me think, you know, I don't have a license to take QP blind. I'm not stealing it.
Well, you're not going to be really stealing it from that position.
No.
Generally.
No.
I mean, some people will, but let's face it, most times you're not going to be trying to steal his blind because he's so too far away from you.
He says, would you put it down if I went all in? I said, yeah.
Did you say yes? He was just having a laugh, I think. I don't think he had any intention of going all in. You never know with this guy.
Well, you never know, do you?
No,
I think
he's one of these players that could do that.
What's interesting is players have changed the way that they want to play me because they do want to take me out now. They do want to take me out. I mean, I can't...
Well, that's good. That means you can get paid off in certain situations.
Yeah, it just makes it different. Yeah, it makes it different. It's difficult to adjust to the
poker,
differences.
though, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
All about adaptability.
Yeah. You've got to. I mean, you know.
And as long as you recognise, which you obviously have, when that situation is occurring, when it isn't, then you just adapt accordingly. And I think the great thing about it is that, you know, you're an old master now at these things. You know, with all your Vegas experience and what have you, that probably taught you the most about adaptability out of anywhere.
Yeah, it did. I'm wearing the jacket here tonight that I used to sometimes wear in Vegas. Because most of the time I used to, I used to just go down in jeans and a baseball cap. But every now and again I used to go down in this jacket and actually I think it was this T-shirt as well, and a pair of black trousers and be like a British tourist. And you could see the smiles on the faces of the regulars because they knew that I was clarting around. Because all the guys from Los Angeles, who were basically a meal ticket, would just assume that I was, you know, in for the weekend.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, I mean, I should have done it more often. When people say to me, I explain, you know, that some people, you know, if you change your style of dress, then you can project a different image to what you are. And people say, Do people do that a lot? And I say, no, not really, because people, it's too much hassle. People don't, or it's not human nature. It's really not human nature to do it. I'm not saying no one ever does it, but there aren't many con men in the world. Interesting statistic: 1 bag in 4 million are stolen from Britain's trains. Right? Okay. Most people are very, very honest. And in fact, even though I knew that my expectation was probably increased by wearing this jacket and doing that whole get-up, I very rarely did it. It was too much hassle. It was too much like hard work. Anyway, the point that I'm making is you react to the way that you think people.
So you didn't have your I love Los Angeles, I love Vegas T-shirt.
I love Vegas. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, most of the time I was stupid because I looked like a pro. I was there in jeans and a baseball cap and shades, and I'd very often stick headphones on for a period. I went through about a year-long period where I listened to music a lot, and yeah.
Well. Oh, Shaky's being sneaky again.
There you are. He's called with the Queens. He's calling with the aces now.
Yeah, he's trying to get some value out of these. Will he get anyone to take him on? Well, Glen Tyrrell is an unusual player, so we might see him have a pop here. Or
It's not a bad thing to do for that very reason, actually. For the reason that Glen Tyrrell's in the big blind.
Yeah.
In fact, the most that I would have done is double the blind for that reason, because you actually want Glen Tyrrell to try
as well.
Yeah, and it's great.
So he's picked up an out or two. Needs a queen or a 10. Doesn't come, so we have our first exiter in Glen Tyrrell, and Shaky, with his little sneaky little call there with his aces, finally gets someone to pay him off.
And you know what, Mark? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude to someone, but people call this a game of luck. I mean, if I watched these players playing for 10 minutes or an hour, I would lay money on Glen Tyrrell and been the first one out. I wouldn't be right every time, but the guy makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Glen Tyrrell, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. We all start somewhere in life, but you made mistakes in this game, and sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes you're going to win a sit and go. But right now, here we go. I've got the pair of fives again, Mark.
But the question is Shaky going to slow play this against you?
But now I see I'm doing this again against QP. Right? This is the interesting thing for me, and I've got a small pair, and if QP raises me here, I'm throwing this away. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing I can do about it. And QP may well think, he's pounding my blind.
He might think now that you've done it twice.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's pounding my blind. Now, that's really interesting, I think. Now I've got a pair of 10s. Now I've seen the cards. This is a really interesting hand. Watch this.
Okay, so 4 times the big blind there, which pair of 10s I think is a right bet in that situation. You don't want to make it 240. You want to make it a little bit more expensive. It's a slightly weaker hand. It's in early position. You've got a lot of people to go through. So for me, the 320 is a good bet.
Now watch, double top, sits, dwells.
I don't know he's got anything to
Oh no, sorry, Shaky.
Well, I don't think there's anything really for Shaky to... Well, this is...
All in.
Shaky, what are you doing? That's... he's really trying to have a go at you, isn't he?
He is, but I can't call it. I've got a pair of 10s. So as far as I'm concerned, he's got 2 overcards or a better pair.
Yeah. And you don't want to put your tournament
I'm not
at
going to put my tournament at risk on a 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's unlikely to do it with 9s, is he? That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
He's unlikely to do it with 7-8.
Yeah. That's a dangerous play by Shaky.
It is dangerous.
But we've noticed already he's made 3 dangerous style plays in this game.
It is
he's
dangerous.
He's got high risk, high reward attitude.
But here's the thing, you see. This is where it'll change, and this is kind of my point. All right, my point has been over sort of 3 or 4 hands. But if enough players do that to me in my next 3 tournaments, if that's the way that I see my short-term image going, I'll call that like a shot in future.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Because you've adapted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think you adapt very quickly. You adapt. You go. I mean, we're doing this on television, therefore it's very visible. But I think we talk about it. In fact, you should. If you feel that a player or 2 players are beating you up, or you have a weak image, then you should absolutely call that down. Even if you lose on that particular occasion, you've got to say to these players, "I'm sorry, mate, you ain't going to push me off."
Yep, absolutely.
But in that situation, so I'm in trouble. I'm on 680, and I hate this because I want to be. I want to double through by now.
You just got to watch the floating gap concept, don't you? In effect. Of course, we're talking about the floating gap concept. What I mean by that, for those viewers a little bit confused by that, is I mean that obviously the gap concept suggests that if you've got a looser player at one end of the gap, then obviously you've got the gap is that much narrower. Whereas if you've got a tighter player, then the gap is that much wider. Shaky with the ace queen suited, making it 160. I think I would have liked to have made a little bit more, but he's got away with it on this occasion. I think 240 would have been my preferred bet there, but doesn't really matter. He seems to be getting away with everything that he's done so far. So he's having a good game so far, is Shaky. Oh, this is curtains for someone here. 9s against 8s. Will King Queen or Ace 10 get involved? We saw Shaky like his Ace 10 a moment ago. We won't like it now. Now that someone's all in and he's only a calling station, so I'm sure he'll just fold it. Or will he? Let's see. He might think he's getting huge odds, which he is.
What? With the King?
With the Ace 10. No, not this guy.
10.
Because the other guy can't... he's only still betting another 300 or so. So he's basically getting... what's he getting? He's getting a lot here, isn't he? He's getting another 15... Oh, he has done it. Yeah, so I was right. Well, very dangerous by Shaky. I mean, he was probably getting the right pot odds to do it. And if his position in this chip stack, even if he lost it, he's only down to 1,000. But... and plus, he could knock 2 people out, which also has equity in knocking 2 people out and getting that nearer the prize money.
So here we go, Mark. Look, here we go again. Another showdown between 2 guys, right? It's me and Shaky again.
Well, yeah, okay. But you haven't picked on him. He picked on you before. So now it's like you're picking on him.
Yeah, no, but yes, right. But I raised, and what I'm saying is it's between these 2 people, and I don't feel good about making this bet. I'm sitting here going, I feel weak. This guy's bullied me, and now I see he's bullied me with a worse hand. I didn't know that at the time, so fine, he folds, so that's great. But it's all about
you
these
weren't folding
personal...
in that situation. He knew you weren't going to fold in that situation because you only had 320 behind you.
Yeah, fine. But I don't want him to set that into me, really. I just want this to be... I want to take the blinds and take Rat Blues money.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I do make that decision, but because I've got Ace Queen, I'm not talking about that specific situation. What I'm saying is, when I'm then put in a situation where I have to face down Shaky Shark, if I had a more marginal hand, I might not do it.
Right. So
because this guy's taken me before.
Yeah.
And in fact, if he'd shown Ace 10, I would have
Did he actually show it to you?
No. But if he had, I would really not have liked it. That's an occasion where people don't like to do it because actually, again, people like to be honest and not unsporting and all the rest of it. But when they do that, when they say, "I've made a muppet out of you, mate," it can be quite unnerving.
Yeah.
When you've got to face that person down. Shaky and Snaky. Classic.
Well, no one's got anything here, and they've still got nothing. So the ace is well positioned. So Shaky should win this one now, and he's put out a bet, and that's the right thing to do. The bet's a little weak. That's the only thing I don't like about it, but he hasn't got many chips to have a go at it with. But he's still going to win it as long as he doesn't have to face a bet here. And he's not. He can just hope that his ace high is winning, and it is. Surprising call there from Snaky, even for a weak bet. I think it's a raise or a fold situation, really, for Snaky. And Shaky, I appreciate you couldn't really put in a bigger bet there because it was just too much of your stack, so I can understand that as well. So, in the end, it worked out okay for Shaky. He's back to some solid ground. Blinds are now 40-80. We've lost 2 players, 6 players remaining. This is a $20 sit and go. We've got our very own Caspar Berry in the top left-hand corner. Let's see how he does. Well, he's made a move of the 5s. And Snaky might fancy a call here, and he does. Well, he's got some outs here to try and take you out, Cass.
Yep.
You haven't got many chips there behind, so the rest is going in. He's going to call. He's looking for a 10 or a king or a jack.
In the future, in the first place.
Well, you're actually an underdog in that flop situation, I think. Oh, actually, no, you weren't.
No.
You weren't. No, not to an inside straight draw. Am I talking about?
It's favourite all the way, Mark.
Yeah, you were. You were.
Because it's very important to point that out because I do have a reputation as an outdrawer. And I haven't outdrawn anyone yet.
Not yet, no.
And I don't think, by the way, incidentally.
Okay. Well, QP's not folding the 10s this time. He's put it all in, and he takes that down.
So now I feel a lot better.
Yeah, you've got some more chips. Everyone's pretty level on chips at the moment, and the blinds are only at 81.60. When I say only, I mean they're still 10% of his stack, but they're at least not biting. They're not really...
Watch this hand, Mark. Watch this.
Well, like the bet again, King 10 suited. It's a fairly strong hand with only 3 players behind you. All you've got to beat is the blinds in effect plus the button. And double top, will he see it as a steal? Then maybe reputation is catching up with you. It is, Cass.
Look at that.
Yeah, the reputation is now catching up with you, isn't it? That's
And once again, now I will have to adjust, but I don't, at the moment, I don't have a call there.
No.
Because double top is putting his head above the parapet with me. Yeah? But, so right now, I can't say that, I can't pick out double top and go, he has decided that he's got my frequency sussed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if that continues to happen, I will call in that situation. In the same way that Gus Hansen calls, because Gus Hansen goes, that's fine, but you aren't going to stop me from doing that. If I fold now, you've basically put my whole style to, bang to rights, basically.
Yeah. So you've got to
what
make
he does.
a counter punch. You've got to give.
Yeah,
you've got to counter punch.
Yeah, and the counter punch is a call, and so what happens is a lot of people go, "Oh God, that's a mad call." But the point about it is that if a player doesn't make that call in the context of his overall image, he's screwed.
What about the flip side to that, Cass? The flip side being that if you're going to call that, why don't you just push all in?
Because I'm only going to call it because I have to in the context of my image. I don't want to be in that situation where I'm pushing in all the time.
Right.
I don't want to make the call. I don't want to. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying loud and proud, you are not going to do that to me. This is an interesting
Okay, very interesting point there by Cass. Well, QP's he's got a flush draw.
Now, QP says something very interesting after this hand. He says, you didn't call with 10s, because I told everyone I had a pair of 10s, but you do call with 8s.
Yeah.
And I say, yeah, but the situation is completely different.
It is, yeah. He's in a small blind, you're in a big blind, and he's an aggressive player. You know him to be an aggressive player. And, yeah, I don't put down 8s either in that situation. The only hand I might put down is 4s and below.
Exactly, but for me, 8s there is a monster.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, you can't
He could do that with ace-6.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? 8s is an absolute monster.
Yeah, no, I've got to
Whereas
agree.
10s, if I've raised with my reputation and a player behind me has re-raised, I can't call with 10s.
No.
And it's the different stages in the tournament. Now you know how fast these tournaments are. Blinds doubling all the time. If I put down 8s there, I've put down 2 pairs in a row, and I'm basically passing up the opportunities that you have to take to make chips. Of course, I could have lost. Of course, he could have had a pair of 9s, but I've got to call there.
Yeah, no, you've got to call. Yeah, I agree. I think the thing to remember, QP, is that you didn't do anything wrong yourself. I don't think really.
No.
Because you know that Cass is a person who's well capable of putting down a lot of hands. The likes of King 10, he's probably throwing away. The likes of Ace 9, he's possibly throwing away.
Not to QP in future, I might add, but
yeah. But in that situation, if you had Ace 9, you'd probably fold as well, don't you?
I would play the man. I would think twice before folding to some players around this table.
8 is a lot stronger. It's a lot stronger. So I think there's nothing wrong with your raise. I think you would have got him to throw away a lot of hands, but 8s and above, I don't think 6s and above is probably not going to be one of them.
3 times a big blind there with Ace Jack. Now Snakey lays down Ace 9, and he actually said afterwards, "I hope you had a hand there." But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Snakey laying that down.
No, he's got 2 people still left to act.
Yeah, it's a good laydown as far as
Yeah,
I'm
I
concerned.
think it's okay.
And that's a very interesting example there. Now, double top with Queen 4, all right, he thinks about it. In a different context, if he hadn't done it already, he might have pushed there.
Yeah.
He might have pushed. But he's not going to do it again a second time. That's
No.
precisely my point. He just sits and he thinks, Caspar won't let me do this again. He'll call me with King 9 this time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can't do this with Queen 4.
No, absolutely, yeah. So
That's a
he's
perfect
sussed out the
example.
situation.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for double top, but that's...
Oh, you're having a duel up here. with the
Yeah,
Ace
I'm
Jack.
going to lay this down. For the reason that you just said there. There's too many people to act behind me. Why would I...
Yeah, and it's a significant part of your stack.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's sensible.
Well, I think I'd have had to have re-raised. Basically...
You would, and it's very dangerous.
There,
You're
basically.
committing yourself to that with 4 players left to
With
act.
Ace Jack. And how many times have I sat here and said, with Ace Jack, you've got nothing? Do you know what I mean? So,
No. I think that's a good piece of play there, from all concerned.
It's not QP that I'm worried about. Of course, you could have a pair of aces, but it's not him and the balance of probability that I'm worried about. It's the people behind me.
Yeah, you don't know what they've
Corner
got.
of the pair of 6s.
Yeah. So, you might get a walk here, QP, and he'll be really pleased about that if that happens, although double top has played an interesting game. You might not let him. He does know that QP is an aggressive player, so he might not want to take him on. And there you are. There's a bit of reputation for you, QP. I think they know that you're a a bit of a loose cannon, and the fact if they raise you there, you might decide to have a snap at it. So they've probably given you a walk there that you wouldn't have got had you been known as a tighter player. And nothing wrong with that move by SS Snakey. He picks up 480. Very nice, thank you. Double top now will shove. 480 is a big part of his stack. Over about 30% of his stack. He's going to. I don't think he even needs to. Might as well just push it here.
He shows this as well. He shows this after this. He really wants us to see his big cards.
Well, bet a lot. This time gets a walk. Well, QP is making the running with the ace-2. And he can't get a look in from double top. Double top's got nothing. He knows he can't raise him off. So he's got 33 behind him. Oh, that was a nasty call there, I thought, from double top. I know he can afford it, but he has got 3-4 at the end of the day. I know he's getting pot odds, and you know, if you're playing in a cash game, that's fine. And QP can't fold this, obviously. He's got a something. He's got an overcard plus. He has a 5 for a straight, but of course that overcard's not going to help him. Only a 5 is going to help him now, and we lose QP.
Actually, it was quite funny in the chat box. Double top said something. It said something like yes on that flop, and QP actually went, "Have you outdrawn me?"
Yeah. Yeah, strange call there by double top. I know he had enough chips there, but to call with a 3-4, maybe if it was a bit more interesting, maybe if it was 8-9 or something, maybe, but.
Well, your point is that he doesn't have enough chips to bet him off it if he misses.
Yeah.
So he's basically effectively just calling.
Just playing the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was getting pods to play, there's no two ways about it. If you could see the cards and you were playing in a cash game, you'd call, but. This
is an interesting one. I've got Jack 10. I'll think about this. Think about it. Don't know.
No, can't call. You can't be a calling station in that situation, especially with 4 players. So, although you are the lowest stack at the moment out of the 4.
Yeah.
But that doneesn't really change anything. Everyone's sort of committed. You and Bet the Lot are committed to the hands, whatever.
Yeah. All the spectators are saying Caspar can't go out on the bubble here for his record, which there's no way I'm going to let that affect me. It
what, the
does,
record, you mean?
Yeah. It does, for me to cash 7 times in a row. It does affect me emotionally, but I'm not going to let it affect my play. I've got to play the expectation. I can't try and eke into the...
No, you can't let sort of ego take over.
The kids in the ward expect more than that.
Well, nice hand, nice pretty hand. Jack Queen suited. No one can really take you on here. He's 600, 700 odd to Sharky, and that's probably a little bit too much. That'll move him back down to 16. And I don't think he wants to take you on, and double top can't be thinking that he's going to take you on with Queen 6. Well, he does call.
Yeah, that was a gift, and people shouted at him for that. People said, stop giving Caspar money.
Yeah, no, the bad play there by Shaky, I've got to say. He did have some outs there on the end with the...
yeah, don't I know
with
it?
the flush.
Mate, honestly, my heart...
And a straight, but... yeah.
And that's right, that's what people were saying, you know, is that you're basically giving Caspar money there.
Yeah, they're so desperate to knock you out, they're actually donating.
And that's the thing. I think he just saw a little bit of.
He saw the checkered flag there, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, saw the checkered flag and.
I'm not thinking about this. I don't know why the pause.
No, you just probably just winding him up a bit.
I think I was chatting in the chat box. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I think I was actually just
saying I let you get away with it, but
yeah.
At least let me make you think that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So we're down to the bubble situation. It's a $20 sit and go, $160 in the pot, which means 80 to first, 48 to second, 32 to third. Fourth gets nothing.
It's an interesting thing actually about that dwell in the big blind, because sometimes. You know how the Italians break it down to their pace when we play them in international football, and what the whole point of what the Italians want to do is slow it down.
Yeah.
Sometimes actually doing that can be very advantageous. If it's going like people are just checking, folding, sometimes just breaking it down like that can be very advantageous if you're a thoughtful player. It might be that you want to do the complete opposite. Do you know what I mean? It might be that you want to make decisions very quickly because then people get into a rhythm of making decisions very quickly, and it may be too quick for them. But I like to, be considered, and sometimes doing that is a good thing to do.
Well, I do like 7-8 double top, but not when it's going to knock me out of the tournament. Oh, he's done it. Gosh.
I thought you might like that.
He's had, he's had more faith in that 7-8 than I did. Yeah, what can I say? Well, I think he did that because of me.
Yeah, in honour of you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. I'm sure that had it have been 8-9, he probably wouldn't have done it.
And I've made the money.
Yeah, so another cash for you.
7 times in a row.
So guaranteed a cash here is a cash for Cas. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's something to do with your name.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I think next time I just have to play on your account. I think that's maybe what it is.
You'll have to tell the little kids. Now, okay, so
this could be dangerous here. Oh, what made you fold that, Cas?
Because that's exactly what I'm about to say, which is, look, Shaky Shark's only got 1,000 left, and Double Top has been really aggressive, and I just knew these two were going to go to war.
Wow.
Absolutely knew these two were going to go to war.
Fantastic play. I've got to say, that's a very good piece of play there by Cas.
That's...
Oh, not so good because you would have hit your straight, but...
That's for me, is the key three-handed. Now, it doesn't matter, now, as it happens, it's worked detrimentally to me, but I still think it's the right thing to do because these two are going at it like hammer on. These two are the two most aggressive players I've played in a Beat the Presenter with.
Yeah, that was an amazing...
My whole strategy is based on the fact that these two will play. They will not wait. They will not wait for me to go out. Look, just raising the whole time. Now, that said...
Yeah, let's see. Who's going to call you here? 640, another 1,000 to Shaky. Will he try and take you on? Well, he probably will because he tried to take you on last time.
Yeah, no, he doesn't actually.
Doesn't he? Okay.
No.
Once bitten, twice shy, huh?
Oh,
no, he does.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that he said he didn't.
Yeah.
So,
there's another
housey?
Oh, maybe I'm
house
thinking
just
of
improves.
the heads up where he doesn't.
3 aces, 2 queens.
Mark, you back me up. I still haven't outdrawn anyone this whole tournament.
No, you haven't. You've been ahead every single time, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you've got a nice hand here.
I think I get a walk. This is the hand I'm confusing it with. I get a walk now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, this would have been a better time to perhaps make a move for the simple reason that you're feeling good about winning the last pot.
Sorry, Mark. I'm completely ballsing everything up.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Say that again.
I was saying this would be a better time to make a move, but for all your chips double top, not for making it too cheap for Cas.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that you've just won the last pot, you're feeling good. Unless you've got a monster, you're probably folding.
Yeah.
Once you've just won some chips, that's when you've got the feel-good factor.
This is a complete mistake that I make now. I don't know why I call that.
320? I don't blame you, Cas.
No, but look...
I don't mind the call.
No, but it's all about stacks. Now, see, what happens is, that comes down...
But for 3 comes, you win a tournament, potentially.
Yeah, I know, but...
No, I don't mind the call, Cas. For 320 into a 1,600 pot.
I still stand by the fact that I bet these guys are going to take each other out.
Yeah, but
which they
cheap for you.
They do.
You've got 2,500. It's only costing you 320. You've got a chance to win a tournament on this hand. I think you should take it. I think you made the right call with the call. I'm disagreeing with you, even though you've made the call.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter because the trouble is when that flop comes down, there's a part of you that goes, well, maybe I should.
No, I think once the flop comes down, you don't hit your 3, then that's finished. But I think there were too many things in your favour. You had 2,500 chips. 320, you've already had one caller, you can see it cheaply, you're getting 5 to 1 your money, you hit your 3, you've won it. There's tons of reasons why you should call.
This is where I swore. So basically...
What did you have?
No, that's not where I swore.
What did you just have?
No, it's all right. I think we've missed the time when I swore. I swore when one of them didn't take the other out. Oh yeah, that's right. It was when I passed with the ace-2.
Oh, right.
And in actual fact,
you
hit
your
because he had to outdraw him to make it.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't the fact that I would have made the straight. It's just that the guy with the bigger stack was winning till the last card.
Yeah.
So we're pretty even now actually.
Yeah, everyone's not that far behind each other. Although he's got no fold equity here, has he? But you felt that your king was winning.
I also...
He can't really fold this, can he? I don't think.
I think he can. I think it's much less likely that he will. But yes, I think I've got a king.
Yeah.
And heads up against a big blind.
Yeah, you take a chance.
It's not brilliant. That for me is the kind of play that ultimately you've kind of got to make, but it's the play that jeopardises you in a tournament.
Yeah, it's one of these plays. I think there's. You've got two bad plays ahead of you, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you have to choose one of them.
That's right.
And you just have to choose the lesser of two evils. And I think that is the lesser of two evils. Not a great play, but you don't really have a lot of choice. You're forced into a corner.
Well, it comes back to exactly the concept we were talking about at the beginning of the show, which is at what point in that particular mathematical situation is the correct card to do it with.
Yeah.
So I've got Jack 10.
That's interesting, isn't it? We were talking about at the top of the show, and you've had that exact same situation,
right?
Knowing that they're not going to fold.
He could have had Ace King there. He could have had Ace 6. He could have had King 6.
Yeah, I can't blame him for calling with a Queen 6.
And here we go.
Well, King Jack against Jack 9.
Yeah, he pushes. I call immediately, and
well, Shaky's got no patience, has he?
I'll tell you what, my heart was beating. God.
Well, Cass does it again. You are the legend. You are now the legend.
First, second, third, first.
Not that you're keeping track of anything.
Well, there's only 7. It's not many to keep track of.
Yeah, mine's a bit easier. 8866. Mine's nice and easy to remember. So there you are. Another win for the legend. That's your new nickname. Cass the Legend Berry. Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't like nicknames, but I do like that one.
You like that one? Yeah, I thought you might. Excellent stuff there by Cass. So that's a nice tournament. I hope you enjoyed that. And I think it's time for emails, because we have got emails coming out of our ears, Cass. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to blast you with a few of them. Here we go. Email from Ross in Wellingborough. And he's saying, I'm mostly an internet player with the occasional light-hearted game with my friends. However, as of tomorrow, I'll be losing access to the internet when I move towards my new job. I do know, however, there are a number of casinos down there. What would you say are the most important aspects in making the transition from computer to real life? Apart from the obvious, keeping it a straight face and not grinning like a fool when hitting pocket rockets.
Yeah, I can ask you a question. How much emphasis do you place on not giving information away when you're playing live?
I place more emphasis on... I don't place so much emphasis on not giving stuff away. But what I do place emphasis is actually trying to deceive the other person.
Do you?
So actually try and give off false tells.
Right.
Yeah, so I actually put emphasis on the opposite in effect.
Yeah.
But I won't worry too much about that. I don't think you have to worry generally, for me. I don't think you have to worry too much about giving too much away. The only thing I'd say... Position for me is not making silly mistakes like meaning to raise and only, not putting your chips forward enough, or only dropping the first few chips in by mistake and not making the correct amount, all that sort of stuff. So what I would say is just verbalise any communication. So if you want to raise to 640, just before you touch anything, just say, I want to make it 640, and then push your chips in, make it 640. So that's really the only thing. Verbalise your communication. Whatever you want to do, check, fold. The best advice I think I can give someone in this situation is take your time. That's
my advice.
Is it? All right. So that's my advice.
That's the only advice I ever come out with in this situation.
Yeah, is take your time, and you'll be surprised how important it is just to sit there and say, OK, let me just give this one 20 seconds. Yeah, if it's 7-2, throw it away. Don't waste your time. But if it's a hand that you want to think about, even if it's like Queen Jack, and you're probably not going to play it, but just think about it for a moment. Think about what's going to happen. Think, oh, hold on a sec. I've been seeing, everyone else has been seeing cheap flops. Maybe while the blinds are really low, I'll have a look at a cheap flop with my Queen Jack. That might be the situation. Or you might be in Queen Jack and thinking this blind is really aggressive. I won't call here because I know he's probably going to raise. So, there might be lots of reasons. But whatever it is, you want to give it that power of thought. And sometimes a lot of players will just look at their cards, forget about everything else around them. They won't think about what's going on around them. If you give it some thought, you probably will.
I agree with that. That's my number one piece of advice, is take your time. And incidentally, on my crib sheet, that was the thing at the top of the crib sheet, was take your time. It was in the biggest letters, it was bolded, it was take your time. I think that live games are all about status. I'll tell you a really good video, if you want to watch it, is Bad Boys of Poker, WPT, Bad Boys of Poker. It's Devilfish, Unabomber, Magician, Gus, a couple of others. And the thing around that table is everyone there has presence. Johnny Chan has just about the most presence I've ever seen a human being have. TJ in a different way, because he's a monster of a man, has presence. Compare them with Robert Varconi. Do you know who Robert Varconi is, Mark?
Yeah, I've actually spoke to him.
Have you?
Yeah, so I was speaking to him in St Kitts and his wife.
But it's a really underwhelming experience.
It was an interesting experience. Yeah, yeah.
The reason why Robert Varconi got so much, abuse, a well-intentioned abuse. It's not like Robert Varconi's a hate figure by any means. He's the world champion of 2002, and he just doesn't have it. And I sat there watching it with the audience downstairs. We were watching it on the monitor, and the place was just laughing. It was just laughing. Now, I know he won the World Series, and I didn't, and probably never will, but as a poker player in a live game, you've got to have status. And I advise you go with your mates. I advise that for the first time you have like a glass of beer, so you're just a bit relaxed, so you're not tense, so that who cares? Who cares? It's very important, I think, not to care too much, because by not caring too much, you can have a bit of the word is not status there. It's just elegance. Ask Joe Beavers. It's just about being relaxed and being able to stare at your opponent and not worry about it. I think that's really, really important, because you do not want someone to look at you and go, here's a kid whose hands are shaking, who's looking down, not giving me eye contact. I can just manoeuvre him. Unless your whole game depends on that, and you've got to be really, really in control for that to happen. I think take your time, enjoy it, relax, and then books. Body Language, Book of Tells by Mike Caro, Book of Tells by Peter Collett, Body Language by Alan Pease, and another one which I forget.
Okay.
Another email.
Okay, yeah, excellent stuff. So this one is from, thanks very much for that, Ross, by the way.
Thank you.
Email from Chaminade, Karen Wright, who is one of our regular players on Poker Night Live. So thanks for your email, Chaminade, Karen. I just thought I would share a positive tale. I am very much a beginner, having been playing for real money for only 3 months. Anyway, first bit of luck was a second place finish in Tuesday night's multi-table tournament. Yeah, very interesting. We saw Chaminade playing a very, very cagey game when it was 3 or 4-handed. She had a7, I remember, in one situation, and got... and the other guy hit 2 pair, and she's managed to throw it away against it. Even though the bots were fairly sneaky and fairly sort of trappy, she still managed to throw it away. A couple of times she escaped by throwing away a pair of aces, I think. Not in the hole, but on the board. So that was quite an interesting play. But anyway, the reason I'm so chuffed, apart from the obvious, is that I now feel confident enough to go up against many of the more experienced players, which, if I'm honest, had always intimidated me. So whilst I have realistic expectations for my future successes, I just wanted to say thanks to PNL for giving me that push that I needed to have a go. Second thing, you're welcome, by the way. Who's you welcome? Second thing to mention is regarding the sit and go rounders tournaments. It seemed like a good thing to give it a go, so I invested $50 and played 10 first round tournaments. This resulted in 4 second rounds, 3 third rounds, 2 fourth rounds and 1 fifth round, where I finished second and banked $1,200. Wow. So another great hit, although I would say to anyone considering this that it takes a lot of playing to beat the percentages in terms of buy-ins versus success. Although the final reward worked out, the hours I put in were phenomenal. Good luck to anyone who gives this a go, and thanks again for a great show. What do you think of that, Cass?
Oh, yeah, it's excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And obviously, again, it's a pleasure.
Great, okay. Anyway, she says, I'm playing terribly today and remain upbeat. So it's another. This one is... done that one. This one is from... Did we do this one?
No. I was going to throw this back to you. It's a good one to...
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it then? Or shall I do it?
No, you do it.
Okay. So this one is from Damo, a.k.a. Crimson King. Thanks very much for your message, Damo. I shall read it out now. I think a loose, aggressive style can be successful if you know when to back off. This is a bit of a long one, Cass. I don't think we're going to have time to do this one, so I'll do a very quick one from Lee, and I'll come back to your one afterwards, Damo. Email from Lee, Nationubus. Hi, guys. I haven't put down pocket 9 since. For information in regard, I think we've done that one as well, didn't we?
We have done that one.
We've done that one. Not going very well here, is it? I'm trying to find a small one, and I can't. So we'll just stop the emails for the moment. That's the easiest way around it. We'll stop the emails. But let me just give you a quick reminder of the text number and the email address to copy off to 84222. There it is on your screen. Text the word poker to 84222 and your message and your name, and me and Cass will read it out live on air. You can also email the show poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. In the break that's just about to come up, have a look at our website, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. We have a great forum on there and lots of useful information that you can have a look at during the break. But anyway, we're going to take a short break now, so don't go too far away, because me and Cass will be right back. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles, Banin, and the Legend. That's your new name, the Legend. You're not even going to be called Caspar anymore. It's just the Legend.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So Caspar showed us how to do it in a sit and goes, 7 out of 7. So that's excellent stuff there from Caspar.
Thank you, mate.
Very nice indeed. So we've got, what have we got today? We've got lots of stuff for our viewers. Have we got time for some emails?
Yeah.
Should we do some emails? We can squeeze one or two in and then we'll quickly go on to our multi-table tournament. Okay, so this one is from Damo. So sorry for interrupting you earlier, Damo, just a bit too long before the break. Crimson King, as he's known. I think a loose, aggressive style can be successful if you know when to back off. Keep the pressure on the other guys, on the other players by raising pre-flop frequently, making continuation bets after you miss flops, and betting at pots if no one else wants. Okay, well that's really loose, but I'm not that loose, but okay. But when a tight player plays back at you, though, I'm prepared to give up the hand unless I have something very strong. If I've been caught bluffing or I've had to fold or re-raise a couple of times, I tighten up for a few rounds and maybe be able to trap the tight aggressive players because they think I'm playing loose.
See, there you go. That's an example of
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Very recent hands affecting the way that you play, not long-term image, but last couple of hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting caught speeding.
Yeah, very interesting point. However, all the poker reading material I own of or know of or advocate a tight aggressive playing style. I assume because this is the easiest effective style to learn and the most common amongst winning poker players. However, the world's very best poker players, e.g. Phil Ivey, Daniel, Negreanu, etc., play an effective, selective, loose aggressive style. So is this a style you can learn through books, or is it totally learned through experience? Any help on this would be much appreciated. Well, it's just one thing I must say before I hand this over to you, Cass, is that you've mentioned about those two players and about books. However, there's one book that you haven't talked about, and that is Super System, which is super loose and super aggressive. If you think those players are loose, you see what they tell you to teach you to do in that book. That will send you balmy.
Yeah. A point I agree with and a point I disagree with. The point I agree with is the reason it's taught in books is because it's the easiest to learn, and it's incredibly difficult to teach in books the kind of style that you're talking about, because the kind of style that you're talking about does take experience. We've talked before and different shows about what experience is. Experience is the product of experience, of playing for a long period of time, and therefore recognising patterns and what are called anchors within the apparent chaos. And you do that for long enough and you start to understand that play does fall into certain categorisations, and also your practice away from the table practices those categorisations or scenarios so that you don't need to think too much and you can act on instinct. However, the part that I disagree with is, we talk about Gus Hansen and Phil Ivey and Daniel Negreanu, and I'm not denying for one moment that these guys are capable of mixing it up, and these guys are capable of playing a very loose, aggressive style. But the problem is, or rather, it's not so much a problem actually for a lot of people who want to make money in poker, is that when you see these guys on TV, they're very often down to the last six in a final table. The last six in a final table is, when it's televised from, is a very different kind of game. And the kind of game that's got them there is very different. In other words, they're perfectly capable of sitting there waiting for big pairs and ace-king. Perfectly capable. For hours and hours and days sometimes. I'm not saying they never mix it up and play different styles, but they will play the man in those situations. These guys didn't get where they were without having that classic ability, which is patience. Wouldn't you agree, Mark?
Yeah, to a certain extent I would agree. I think they have very excellent chip gathering skills.
That's right, which is about making plays at pots where there's no resistance, definitely.
Yeah. The thing that I find, Cass, is very interesting, is that whilst I agree to the point where they don't play the same way as what you see them play on the final table is nowhere near what you see them playing leading up to the final table. But the important thing I find is that you'll very, very rarely see Phil Ivey approaching the money stages with a short stack. I can't remember ever seeing them in that situation. Very, very rarely. And I think it's because he's quite prepared, for whatever reason, but he's quite prepared to take those chances in that middle stages of a tournament or in the early part of the tournament.
I think I'm going to defer to Devilfish now, who knows a bit about poker. Phil Ivey is on a good run. Okay, there have been players better than Phil Ivey and worse than Phil Ivey who've gone on good runs like that. I mean, I'm on a good run with a sit and goes. I'm not going to cash. No, I'm serious. I'm not going to cash 7 out of 7 times in a sit and go. I've had good cards, and that's just been 7 sit and goes, but it looks like a good record.
Yeah.
And same way that Phil Ivey's had a good record. I mean, again, I can only quote Devilfish. Apparently, in the Invitational tournament following the big one in the Monte Carlo Millions, you know, Phil Ivey just had outdraw after outdraw after outdraw in his favour, and that's great. So, you know, sometimes you can look at a player. You said it yourself. The long run in tournaments is a very long run, and it's capable to be a decent player. Phil Ivey is, he's a brilliant player, but he's a brilliant player on a good run.
Yeah.
And I think it's impossible to read too much into it. You might say, yeah, Phil Ivey has rarely reached the final stage, is short stack, but there are lots of great players who do make that place for first place, who have done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's very difficult to read too much into those figures.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that those guys have sat at poker tables year in, year out. They don't sit there mixing up and raising it with 6-3 suited all the time. There's a game that gets them there. They'll change it very much according to the player they're playing. You know, for example, the other day I called a raise with 7-5 suited on the button in the early stages of a tournament, right? And the flop came down King 7-5. And the guy check raised me, and I called, and then he bet out on the turn, and I raised him, and I took him out of the tournament. And he went ballistic. How could you call 7-5? And I said, because you're an ABC player, mate, and because I knew when that flop came down what you had. I just knew it. Anyway, he just went.
Cass,
absolutely
me
off
and
it.
you, I think we must be getting very similar. I think we're turning into each other.
No, I've always played like
Because
that.
I knocked out a guy with 8-5 suited the other day,
Right.
out of position calling, and he had queens, and I hit the board came, I don't know, something 8-5, and and that was it.
And what you say to him is what I say to this guy is that, if I'd missed it, I'd have released it, and it would have cost me 3% of my stack, or more than that. Actually,
Yeah.
it was less than 2% of my stack.
But it wasn't a lot anyway.
No, it was tiny.
Yeah.
And anyway, the point that I'm making is, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm going to do that and Phil Ivey won't. If he sees a basic player making a move, he'll call with a below average holding because he knows where he is and he knows where the other player is, but the other player doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
He knows that. Of course he knows that. But what I am saying is that the majority of the game that they play to get them there is they've got to know where they are, and most of the time they're going to know that they're going to have the best cards.
Yeah.
And when you see them six-handed, there's two things, actually. This point's been made many times. It's not original. But the two things are, number one, you see them six-handed, and that's a different game. We were playing differently our six-handed commentators game than you'd play a 10, 11-handed game. And number two, you only see the highlights.
Yeah.
And in fact, you don't see the times that they raise with ace-king suited and no one calls them. You don't see the times that, they just steal the blinds a lot of the time. You don't see the massive, the fold that they make with the wacky cards. You just see the highlights.
Yeah.
So those two things combined do make it look like they're playing a different game to what they are. And my only concern is that if you play that way, I forget who the emailer was now, but if you play that way and you don't have the experience and you're on a lucky run, then you might be for a rude awakening. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying one could be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much for your input there, Cass. And we've got lots more emails for you. I'll give you a reminder of that a little later on. However, it's time to go to our multi-table tournament. You always give a very thorough answer, Cass.
Oh, John, I'm exhausted.
Okay, I'll do the commentary.
That beat the presenter really took it out of me, mate. You're doing it next time.
I'm quite happy to let you carry on, to be honest with you.
Should we do it till I don't cash?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably a good idea. So we have a situation here where we've hit the final table, and let's have a look what's going on here. So we've got, can he call there? He's got 9,000 to call. He might take a pop at him with a7. No, he doesn't. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players left. They've all battled themselves out. To give you some ideas of what's happened with some of these other players that we saw earlier, Portman Road, who we had a little glimpse of earlier, he finished in 17th, unfortunately just missed out on the money. We also had E-Razor, who we've seen him a couple of times on Poker Night Live. He finished 12th, also just out the money. The person who cashed in 10th spot was Charwell. He got $18.90. Of course, entry for this was $10. Riverdog AVFC finished in 9th with $37.80. We've just seen a player go out there. 8th was Red Ford, which was $50.40. He finished 8th. One of a Kind finished in 7th with $63. Mr. NJ Chip finished in 6th with $81.
Is that him
And
from Catchphrase?
Sorry?
Was that Mr. Chip from Catchphrase?
No, because it's Mr. MJ Chip, this
Oh,
one.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, sorry.
Maybe they're related.
Could be his brother. Yeah, or maybe his cousin.
Watch Mr. MJ Chip.
And Benny Bump, who finished 5th place and takes a nice round figure of $100. So well done to those guys, and we're down to 4 players now. So it'll be interesting to see how these boys play out.
There's no such phrase.
Okay, so we've got 2 players on the big stacks, and PFC Boy and DV are on the drip feeds at the moment. So we'll see if what's going to happen here. They both need some kind of hand, and DV is taking a chance. Will Chelsea call him? I don't like that call if he does. No, he doesn't. But certainly Wayman will. Wayman, rather. Calls with a jacks. King, only a king will help him. Doesn't come. Wayman says thank you, and unlucky DV.
Did you do a Geordie accent there, Mark?
Sorry?
Did you do a Geordie accent?
No,
there?
I can't do it.
I think you did a little bit.
Did I? It was by accident.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was only because he's got Wayman.
Did you do it again there?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. You do it. You sort of come from that area, don't you?
I don't know. I hate saying why, but I think it sounds stupid.
I'll do something else then.
I'll do it in conversation. Because whenever anyone asks you to do an accent, it always comes out really badly. Okay. Like my impression of Roy Walker, slow talker.
All right, so we've got 3 players left, and DVN1 finished 4th with $119.
He was never particularly slow. It's a really bad nickname. Not as good as the Legend.
No, the Legend is classic, I think. You are creating a legend, the legend of the presenters. So Chelsea 25, PUFC Boy, and Wayman all battling it out for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Which one's going to get which?
How many's got kings?
Well, PFC Boy is favourite to go out in 3rd at this point.
I just did it there. Just did the
catch it
accent.
there. It was a bit short.
I just said money's got kings.
It's a bit short. I think you need to make it a bit
Well,
sort of longer sentences, please.
Not all Geordies talk in long sentences. They wouldn't say all, they'd say I'll. But again, it sounds stupid.
Well, Chelsea, he's been quite good actually with folding so far. And PFC Boyce has announced that he's got something here. And will Chelsea believe him? Or will he get tied into this hand? Now, he has folded the last couple of hands, and this might be playing on what you were saying earlier. He thinks, well, sometimes I need to make a stand. This might be the time, and he says no. And I think that's an acceptable fold there for Chelsea. He's doesn't need to relinquish 12,000 of his chips to PUFC Boy on the hope that he doesn't have any part of that. So calling with a 9-6. He's been very unfortunate so far, Chelsea. He hasn't hit anything. He's got the patience of a saint, but doesn't seem to hit anything. He's got an inside straight draw here, so he doesn't need to hit. That's not really what he wanted, but he doesn't mind one of those again, or a 9. Will do him very nicely. An 8 will do him well, very nicely too, but no, hasn't come. Pair of 7s, pair of 6s, and he pays him off. He pays him at 12,000 on the basis of a pair of 6s. Well, I don't blame him really. I think it's probably a call he had to make there. The board didn't look very advantageous for a PUF, for a Wayman. And Wayman as well. Look at this all of a sudden. I mean, he was never really short on chips, but all of a sudden he's really wrestled this chip advantage now from Chelsea. And now Chelsea is starting to lose ground.
I think you might win this.
Who, Wayman?
Aye.
Yeah, you might do.
I think he's in like a commanding position.
Well, this will be interesting. What's he going to do here?
That was awful.
I couldn't tell you.
No,
Well,
I'm coming clean.
Now, will Chelsea try and slow play this? He needs to try. He does. I like the play, although I do like him to put a bet out here if Wayman doesn't, regardless of what. He needs to either raise or bet, according to what's happened from from his. He's put some kind of bet here. Maybe his little, a little Nicky type bet, and he gets called. Good. That's what he needed. He needs to put a little bit bigger this time, maybe 6. Oh, he's got the other guy betting for him instead. Yeah, he feels that he's got a good chance of him being ahead. Bit dangerous by raising there. But he's hoping the other guy's got a jack or an 8 and will pay him off. Of course, we can see he's got nothing on the saw. He's got absolutely nothing. So his only option to AA is to re-raise, but she's not going to do it. So Chelsea was hoping he had the jack or an 8 there. And he didn't. So he wrestled some of those chips back. He's back in contention for that number 1 spot. And POC boy is on life support again. Well, that ace-9 is now on a small blind. I think we're going to see him push in. He does. He wants 4,000 chips. That's a big chunk of his stack. 20% to him, that's worth. So it's worth taking that. Don't have to do anything fancy with that hand. Battle of the average hands here.
I'm going to make a statement. I want you to tell me whether it's obvious or contentious. I have no idea whether this statement is like...
And what makes you think, oh no?
Well, it could be anything from blindingly obvious to you disagree completely.
Okay.
The difference between a good player and not a bad player, but a good player and a just loss-making player has nothing to do with the bets and raises that he makes. It has everything to do with the incorrect calls that they make. In other words, there's almost no difference.
Well, are you saying that's the most important thing?
What I'm saying is there's almost no difference between the bets and raises that a good player and a not good enough player makes. The only difference between the two of them is the calls that they make.
The only difference? No, I don't agree with the fact it's only difference.
95%. 95% of the difference between them is the calls that they make.
No, I don't think it's 90%. I don't think it's that high.
Really?
Personally, I don't.
Because I think at this stage...
I think it's a big factor. The calls is probably more important. But I think there are opportunities to wrestle more chips out of your opponents. And
I agree with that. No, I
don't think there's enough value betting.
Okay.
In a lot of the stuff that we see.
I would characterise that as a very good player. In other words, I don't think that's the difference between a good player and a not good enough player.
Oh, okay.
I would say that's the difference between a very good player and a good player. In other words, that's the next level up.
Okay.
I'm playing with my definitions now, basically. Aren't
Yeah.
I? But that's what I'm saying is I'm always defining a good player as being a kind of player who makes the same kind of bets and raises as a
then
just
you're
loss-making player.
then you're not far off then, I think. Whether it's 95 or 90%.
I've made it a truism, so
I think
got out of that one.
Yeah, I probably think you're not far off.
And then what happens is to get becoming a really good solid player, regularly profit-making player, is one who, exactly as you says, makes the value bets and extracts the most. In other words, maximises his winnings. So the difference between a bad player or a difference between, I don't want to say bad player because bad players don't even make the right bets.
So you're saying stage one is basically not to lose so much?
Well, yes. To become a sort of break-even player is you have to make the right bets and raises. Then to become a good player, you have to make the right folds.
Calls and folds.
Yeah. And then to become a very good player, you have to extract the most. So that's when you minimise your losses. And then to become a very good player,
I like
you have
those 3 steps.
Yeah?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
I think it's
I actually prefer arguing with James, but, I like it.
That's because I'm so tired, Mark. You don't get any resistance. I think it's the evolution of most players. Some players go backwards. Some players master value betting before they master folding, but I think it's a reasonably fair assessment of a development of a player. I'm basically saying that just to prove to people that I was doing some thinking work whilst Mark was doing some speaking work. I think that's very important to bear in mind.
So whilst all this is going on, let me give a little shout out to Hedge, Colin and Suzanne.
Who are they?
Well, I don't know, but what I can tell you about them is that they're in the midst of pumping up something to do with lilos and poker. I mean, poking lilos, I don't know what they're doing up there. But anyway, whatever you're doing, have fun with doing it.
Sounds rude.
It does sound a bit rude, doesn't it? Yeah. well, this is a cagey sort of sit and go multi-table tournament we're watching at this stage, and this is the lovely thing about it. You know, we've got Way A up the top there, who's got what's he got there? He's got about 23 times the big blind. We've got Chelsea, who's got about 15 times the big blind, just under, and you know, so there's tons and tons of play, which is great because these guys can actually play poker, and they have been playing poker, you know, since the final table, which is great because it means that we should see the better player on that, you know, at the time win rather than just the luckiest player at the time win. Still can't afford to make too many mistakes, but at least you're getting some manoeuvrability.
Bullo asked an interesting question on the forums at 12:30 this morning. He says, if the air trapped inside an aero or Kinder egg, is it made up of the same gas composition as everyday air? And if so, could we go to space in a shuttle and survive off it? I.e., if the air is running low, would all we have to do is open and eat another chocolate bar?
So Chelsea's got 63,000. Is this the best question you could pick out? Are you okay, Cass?
It's on the forums. Mark, it's valid. It's on the forums. It's in the section marked My Thoughts.
Okay, well, that's his thoughts, isn't it?
It is.
I think you should respond, Cass. So,
other thoughts include, is the grass always green on the other side? And why does bread always land on its butter side? And why do you never see baby pigeons?
Now, that's a good question. Why don't you ever see baby pigeons? Do they just grow the same? Do they start off the same size?
They can't do, can they?
They could do.
Well, they're not that big when they come out of the egg.
Might be a big egg.
Might be a very big egg, yeah. Who's winning?
Well, Chelsea's winning that. He's managed to get the lead back. So this has been very up and down, and what we can see is that PUFC boy has managed to increase his stack somewhat. He was hovering around that 20k mark, and he's now got up to 40. So he can probably take a little bit of a breather, not too much though, because he's still only got 10 times the big blind. But it's good to see this lead swinging backwards and forwards without people unnecessarily going all in and stuff like that. Well, good flop for PUFC boy, he likes it. Wayman's got a 3-card straight. Will he want to get involved, see what the next card is? He's also got backdoor flush opportunities. And he does. And PUFC boy is probably a little concerned now, but he thinks, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. That's really not hurt me at all, that extra 7 on there. And if you happen to have a 7, then good luck to you. I think you're raising me with a 2, so I can't imagine you've got a 7. If you have, then bad luck. And yeah, I think good thought process then from PUFC boy. And incredibly, PUFC boy is now on a par with Way A, where he was just a moment ago.
I think you did the accent again. I don't want to draw attention to it, because I think it's actually quite a good accent. It's a good attempt.
But I'm not attempting to, and I think you're...
Are you sure?
I think you're just winding me up now.
I'm not winding you up. Do you genuinely... You keep on saying Way.
All right, Mr.
You're not saying Way I Man, are you?
Way I Man?
No, you're saying Way.
Way A. This is how he wants it. That's how you pronounce it, though, isn't it?
That's how he wants it.
I mean, K-A-R-A is Cara, but she wants it pronounced Kara.
And she shall have whatever she wants.
Really? Okay, we won't discuss that live on air. So Chelsea with the 2-5 suited.
Kara is a happily married woman and not Oriental.
She's not happily married, as far as I know.
Well, speaking metaphorically.
Okay. Get lots of invitations now, I think. Possibly. So, Cass, how do you feel about doing 1 or 2 emails with me here while we're watching these boys play out?
Good.
Because we've got a ton to get through, and I'm a bit worried that we might not get through them all. So, this one is from Andy, and he says, "Hi guys, this week I started playing online pot limit hold'em. This was accidental, as I was not paying proper attention when I was selecting the table from the lobby."
Can I just say, I'm rubbish at pot limit, so you're going to have to do this question.
I love pot limit.
God, I can't do it.
Pot limit's my game.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites.
I'm going to have a little sleep.
Okay, good night.
Sing along, Mark.
Okay. I was joking when I said sleep. Don't put your head down. And I have to say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've also made a reasonable profit, which helps. Yeah, I like pot limit. I do like pot limit because it does make you play the game rather than just this mindless all in all the time.
Rubbish.
Looking back at these sessions, it seems to me that there was a better atmosphere at the 25-cent pot limit tables than at the 25-cent no limit tables. I've got to say though, that is just I think that is more by fortune than by design, rather than whether it's pot limit or no limit. I don't think that really makes a difference.
What does that mean, better atmosphere, or like more banter in the chat box?
I presume this is what he means.
Better looking women.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what he means.
Okay.
And that the level of play seemed higher than a 25-cent blinds would suggest. Are these fair comments, or have I just been lucky? Well, certainly I prefer pot limit because it does mean you play the game more. It means that you're less susceptible to these all-in bets and big over bets, so stuff like that. It's a nicer, finer game to play. It's less dangerous than no limit, I would say. In terms of atmosphere, I think that was just luck. I don't think there was anything really to do with whether it's pot limit or no limit.
I disagree. I think pot limit players are all snobs because they all think they're playing the highest form of poker, and therefore you get these, poker aficionados. So I think the standard's going to be very high per cash limit, and I think there's going to be quite a sort of cultured conversation. All the brutes are off. All the guys who are new to poker and have got into it through the telly and the internet. They're all off playing at no limit poker and going all in. And you guys are all having these pot odds conversations and what's the implied,
Cass, that's crap. Right, I'm sorry. There's nothing else that I can say.
It's not. There's not a single person who likes pot limit that doesn't go on about its purity.
Have I mentioned anything about purity?
No, you've used different words.
I just said I prefer
He wants a book.
Yeah, look, don't turn into James now, will you?
I'll tell him the book that James
I'll
swears
start on
by.
you.
No, James is a good pot limit player, and the book that James swears by is Pot Limit and No Limit Poker. It's very highly imaginatively titled by Bob Rubens and Bob Chiafoni and Stuart Rubens.
Okay.
That's the one that James absolutely swears by.
Excellent. All right.
It's true.
So,
you're all snobs.
Yeah, maybe. Listen to him. Anyway, so what does that make the limit guys?
We're quite boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're quite dull.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That is different.
I'd
again.
rather be a snob than dull. Anyway,
So
evening
would I.
guys. Dan in Essex is saying, thanks for your email, Dan. Dan in Essex is saying, evening guys. Good to see the A team back together. We've done this one. On to the next one. Why don't you delete these things when you've done them? Can you get your act together, please?
Know. You're the host, mate. You've got to control me. I'm technically a guest out of control.
Yeah, you are out of control. Mm. You are. You're calling us snobs. You're swinging backwards and forwards on your chair. I mean, it's just not good
Very
enough.
risque.
Yeah,
very risque.
very
Don't
risque.
telly.
Okay.
Except when it's repeated.
This is from Patrick in Sweden. Sorry we've taken so long to get back to you. Patrick, you were one of our earlier emailers, and I know it's very late there now, but however, you're probably still playing as you Swedes tend to. I have played a few tournaments and not doing too good. Well, that's not too good. Shorthand cash game is what I master. I have thoughts regarding when you're low stack in a tournament and need to make a move. I have made the move so many times with too high cards like Ace, 8 or King Jack to only be called by a dominating hand. I'm starting to wonder if you not have Ace King or Ace Queen, you're better to go all in with too low cards suited and connected to avoid a chance to have your King and Ace dominated, like 5-6 suited. Your thoughts? Thanks for a good show. And by the way, where do I play to get on the TV table? Would love to hear you criticise my play. Where you get on the TV table is you just pick TV tables from the menu, and that will allow you to get back in there and play on the TV tables. So that's how you do that.
Well, bizarre again, isn't it? This email is exactly the same as what we were discussing earlier on in the show. If you believe that your guy is going to call you with any two cards, in other words, if he's a loose player in the big blind, then you're better off playing your Ace-8. If you believe that the guy is quite tight and will only call you when he's got an Ace or a King, then you're better off playing with a 5-6. Because if he doesn't call you, you've won anyway. And if he only calls you, then you're right, you're going to have a dominated Ace or King. So that should be the question that you ask yourself. Now, is it fail-safe? No. You're dealing in a world where you're trying to gauge the probabilities. What I would say to you, don't know your name, email's gone off the screen, but from Sweden, is...
Patrick.
You've been unlucky, and something that Mark and I have discussed many times and that I feel quite passionate about, and we've kind of been discussing in a way tonight, is don't let a one-off experience that's caused you pain deviate you too much from what you know to be good play. In other words, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go all in with Ace and King, or Ace Rag or King Rag. You need to do what you know to be right, not what's happened on the last 8 occasions. I mean, I remember one night in the gut shot, actually, where I went all in from the small blind and got called by ace-king in the big blind, and it really, really, really unnerved me from doing that again when I was down to sort of 5 big blinds in the last stages of a tournament. But it's the right thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you mustn't let that sort of...
Mustn't let one situation dominate you, yeah. No. Can be hard sometimes, but you've got to push on.
Let's have another email from Steve.
Yeah. Tell you what, shall we get back to that game and we'll do it while in the view of the game?
All right.
Yeah, so we do it while in the game. How's that? Otherwise, these boys won't get enough coverage. So this one is from I tell you what, let's do this one from Balrog. Who's nice, he's got a nice little thing for you. I'll do this one, Cass. Saying, morning, Mark and Cass. Just to say, hats off to Cass. 111-331 or something like that. And I believe in the Beat the Presenter games tonight. Tonight, in my humble opinion, you were beyond your Beat the Presenter table image, or that Cass certainly can play, but has the outdraw god on his side. No, I don't think you outdrew anyone today, did you?
No,
so
it's changed.
Yeah. Now, 2, hey, that Cass can play and certainly knows how to read a table and is blooming good at sit and goes. Yes, he is. He's got a fantastic record. Impressive is my summary of what it's worth. However, one day, young man, that bubble and below is coming. Nice show again, Steve, a.k.a. Balrog. Yeah, couldn't agree more. He's playing a phenomenal game at the moment, so anyone to hit 7 out of 7 must be doing something right. So hats off from me too.
Thanks, Steve.
You get my hats off as well. If I was wearing one, I'll take it off.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that from Steve, because in all seriousness, he's genuinely, you know, he's honest with me when he knows I've done a bad play, or it's just you know, that's a compliment that I really take seriously.
Oh, excellent. Thanks very much for that, Steve. This one is from Stamper in LA, and great to see that we got this foreign viewers, what should we call them? Like patriots, aren't they, really? Sort of like, yeah, expats. Anyway, Stamper in Los Angeles. Great show as always. If you have ace jack in the hole and the flop comes down king queen rag, is it a good idea to call and hope to hit a top pair or a Broadway straight? In limit, it might be the case, but what about in no limit? Well, I'll give you my views, very obvious in my views, and definitely not worth calling in no limit. You want to, if you are going to play it and you've got depth within your stack and the other guy's got depth within his stack, you might want to re-raise with it. You want to try and take it down there and then. Depends what your other read of the player is, though, whether he's likely to fold or whether he's a calling station or never fold. If you feel that you can get him to fold, then definitely re-raise if there's a possibility. Of course, nothing is ever 100%, but if you feel there is some fold equity in there, then you definitely want to re-raise with an inside straight draw. You don't want to be calling off your chips with that. Definitely not. What do you think?
I actually think it's one of the biggest mistakes that beginning players make in No Limit Hold'em is they play 2 big cards, they get another 2 big cards, and they see straight draw stars in front of their eyes. And they think, oh, I've got the 2 big cards, I can hit one of these 2 big cards and I got the straight draw. And they don't sit down and do the simple bit of elementary maths that says, you know, it's going to cost me on this street, it's probably going to cost me on the next street, and, you know, still the chance of me hitting go from 5 to 1 to 10 to 1.
Yeah.
So...
exactly right. And that's just an important one. Can you just give us those odds, Cash, just in case anyone missed that?
Well, you're 10 to 1 to hit it on the next street, basically.
Yeah.
So
that's
on the flop,
odds.
you're 5 to 1 to hit it by the river, but 10 to 1 to hit it on each street.
Yeah. So that's the thing to remember. You're 10 to 1, and you're not generally. You might be getting odds, I don't know, but you're very unlikely to be getting 10 to 1 to call to hit your inside straight. Especially when you're not, well, implied odds are probably quite good in inside straight draws, but generally speaking, you want to have a semi-bluff opportunity at it, don't you?
Mm.
You know, it's such a weak draw that you really want to be winning it without seeing any cards, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Stamper, and that's our view on it. But it is chancy, it is risky, and you can do a lot of chips. You've got to have a decent read of your play, knowing what the chance of him losing is.
As we see, Chelsea's just gone out with King 10 to Jack 9, which is, you know, not a massive favourite really, and Way I Man has gone and taken a big chip lead now, and look at this, it's all over in 2 hands, Mark.
Wow.
Goodness gracious me.
That didn't last long, did it? Last bit. I thought we were going to get a bit longer there.
Where were we? Emailing away, and it's all happened. Still, I think it was nice to have some emails. We've had a lot of shows of following MTTs.
Yeah.
Some people love emails, some people love cash play, but we've covered a lot of ground tonight, haven't we?
We have. We've covered a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff indeed. So, ready for some more?
Yes.
Okay, we've got tons of them. Tons of them. Okay, this one is from Dan, a.k.a. Golf Mad Chef. Hi, guys. The best thing happened to with my poker winnings. I won a small multi-table tournament online in the morning. online. Give me, gosh, it's English.
It's going well, isn't it?
Yeah. Giving me the thought that I think, this is late, Golf Mad, please make it easy for me. Giving me the thought I think I'll go to my nearest casino with my winnings in the £10 rebuy. Playing only 5 hands in the first hour and half of the rebuy period after the break, I had 7,200 chips. Bearing in mind we only start with 500, which is pretty good. I made the final table, second in chips, eventually got to heads up. My opponent was quite passive and I couldn't work out how to get his chips. So I started to limp and found he would raise me. Now I found a tool. At last I found kings in the hole again. I limped and announced raise. After a long dwell, I announced all in and he called a king-queen suited. I won the hand and a tournament and a very handsome first prize. Wow, very nice indeed. Very nice. Allowing me to pay for a wonderful all-inclusive 2-week holiday in Mexico with my girlfriend. Now, up to that point, he was doing everything right, wasn't he? He was doing everything right up to that point, and then you just blew it. Blew it, Golf Mad Chef. You don't take your girlfriend. If you're going to take your girlfriend on a holiday, that's fine. But if you're going to take her, you take her to where there's a poker tournament. Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's got it all wrong.
Vegas, for me.
Unfortunately, it rained. Oh, this gets worse. Unfortunately, it rained 10 times out of 14 days as Hurricane Rita decided to pass through the Gulf of Mexico. But we still had a great time, thanks. No, all in seriousness, well done, Dan. And it's nice to see putting some of those winnings to good use.
In all seriousness, take her to Vegas. There's $50, love. Go and play some roulette. If you double it up, give me 50%. Yes, got a question for you, Mark.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hey, Mark and Caspar, says Tirade, a.k.a. Simon. Great show. Good to see Caspar back. Just a quick question. Been playing tournaments mainly and tried a cash game again after a long time. How do you guys make the adjustment between the two? Do you tend to bring tournament styles over to the cash and vice versa? Thanks again, Tirade, a.k.a. Simon. Now, the reason I'm going to pass this to you is because my story about this is the following. I play no-limit tournaments and limit cash games. I do not like no-limit cash games. Don't like them. Can't do them. I don't know whether it bores me or what I tend to do is I tend to go all in at some point, as I would with a tournament, and I lose it all. So I make these little gains, and so in fact we had an email about it that said just this about 6 months ago. I make these little gains and then I go and blow it all. I do that all the time in a no-limit cash game, which I don't do in a limit cash game, obviously, and I don't do in a tournament because when I move all in a tournament it's strategically timed, actually, usually because of the recent history between me and that player. So, what do you think about moving from tournament no limit to cash no limit?
Well, there is a difference, and it's all about adapting to the situation. Now that takes a bit of practice, I must admit. It isn't easy, and that's why you don't get a lot of players doing it. Either you get a lot of tournament players or a lot of cash games. But it does take adjustments, and you've got to have a different head on when you play either. You've got to realise the differences between the two, and unfortunately there's no trick behind it. There really isn't. The trick is just experience. Once you get more comfortable with your overall tournament strategy, once you get comfortable with your overall cash strategy and the way you want to play, then it's just a case of just switching from one to the other, whichever it happens to be. It's a bit like, if you drive here in the UK and then you go off to drive in the States and drive on the other side of the road with left-hand drive, you can't drive in the same way because everything's, on the opposite way. So you just make an adjustment. You just don't say, oh, I can't do it. You just have to make that adjustment. You won't be driving perfectly at first, but eventually you will get the hang of it, and before you know it, you drive either one you decide to drive and it'll be exactly the same. And it's just about getting a bit of practice and making those adjustments, and also, probably more importantly, just make sure that you've got both strategies secure up here, and that's where some of the problem is sometimes, because you're not too sure what your tournament strategy is, you're not perhaps too sure what your cash strategy is, and the two get sort of mingled in between. Whereas if you've got very definite views on what a cash strategy is and what a tournament strategy is, then hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier when it does come to playing either.
The gap plays much less of a role in cash games, doesn't it? Isn't that the point of Sklansky and Mammoth's book on tournament play, that the gap is greatly heightened in a tournament? Because people can't call so often, because if they call and they lose and they've lost all their chips and they're out?
I need to think on that one.
Okay.
And it's probably not the best time to do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, is the answer.
I'll be honest with you.
I need to give it some serious thought on that.
I don't want you to throw any big questions at me at this time, I'll be completely frank.
That's a difficult one. I'm not sure, is my answer. I'm not sure, without giving it some serious thought.
Have we got a bit of cash game to watch and kill some time while we have a think? Can we do that?
We've got lots of emails, though.
We can still talk.
Yeah, OK. Go on, then. Go on, let's have a look at a cash game. Go on, you talked me into it.
Off the screen. It just means I can sit back, that's all.
OK. Oh, it's a good idea. Let's unbutton this.
Well, I'd want you to rephrase that, I'll be honest.
Okay. I don't think I can think about it, Cass. That's why I was deliberating whether we should go to the cash game. I'm not sure it's something I actually want to think about at this stage.
No, I know how you feel.
But let me, in the meantime, go through a couple of other emails that we've got here. This one is from Jimbot. And Jimbot is saying, thanks for your email, Jimbot. He's saying, hey, Shuck guys, great show as ever. With regard to getting annoyed at the table, I remember one game where I kept going over the top of a particular player. My opponent typed, do that again. Oh, you've done this one, haven't you? I'm going to warn you, if you don't delete these in future, I'm going to tie you to that chair. Actually, no, you'd probably enjoy that too much. I
won't, mate. Not if I have to do this every night.
This is an email from Daz, and Daz is saying, hi, Mark and Kaz. Great show as usual, by the way. Emailed Mark and Malcolm about 3 weeks ago saying that I'd won $1,800 for a $50 stake and asked their advice as to whether or not I should think about playing more than just part-time. Yes, I remember that, actually. I remember that, Daz. What I failed to mention is that I've been playing for 3 years online and live and in this period, merely playing part-time, I'm 18k in profit. Since my last email, I've won another 3,750 in pure profit. I also said previously that I'd been winning in multi-table tourneys, but failed to mention that my main source of profit was from sit and goes, as you had rightly said that there was too much variance in multi-table tournaments to think about making the switch. So to sum up, in 3 weeks, I've made $5,500, which is a lot more than 3 weeks' salary for me. And whilst I understand that you may think this is down to luck, I'm of the opinion that my game is now the best standard it has ever been. Okay? While these figures may be chicken feed to you, I think that no, they're not chicken feed at all. I think that there is a part-time player, as a part-time player, there may warrant a serious amount of thought as to the future of my poker playing involvement. Would be really interested to hear what you guys think. Good luck and keep up the good work. You see, the problem is not about your winnings, Daz, I'll say it. You know, it's not, for me, it's not about your winnings. That's not the issue. You know, you're winning and that's great. You know, but let's just give you an example. Yeah. In my first year, I would say my first professional year in 2004, and I'll say the figures, but it doesn't really matter because you can look these figures up on the internet anyway, so it's not a secret. But in my first year, I made something in a region, just from tournaments, of about $170,000. Now look at year 2, i.e. 2005, and my figures are nothing like that whatsoever. Okay. Now, I say 170,000 from tournaments. That was obviously tournaments, not local-based tournaments, but national-based or international-based tournaments. Obviously, there were local-based tournaments, which you've got to factor into that as well, which aren't accounted for in those figures. However, my point is that you can go from one extreme in tournaments to another, and you can also do the same with less variance in cash games. And my point is that what do you now do if you now lose $5,000 for 3 months in a row? How does that affect you? Because I'll tell you what, that will happen, you know, like it or not. And I don't want to put a downer on anything because, you know, I'm very positive, generally I like to be positive. However, these things will happen. I've known some fantastic players that go through. I'll say it again, take Daniel Negreanu. He went a year of winning $3.7 million and then went for the following year with winning something like 100,000. You know, and this is still playing every single tournament, practically. So, you know, that's the thing. Now, can you sustain? He probably paid in hundreds of thousands of dollars into playing all those different tournaments and the expenses and everything else. Can you sustain, you know, a loss of, let's say, something equal? Let's say pro rata. Let's say, can you sustain a loss of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for 3 months in a row?
Do you mean his bankroll or do you mean emotionally?
I mean emotionally, his bankroll, everything.
Okay, well, he has to be able to do it for his bankroll. You have to be bankrolled,
yeah.
And the bankroll has to be proportionate to the games you're playing, and you can work that out mathematically. And I would, you know, work it out mathematically and then add a bit so that you're safe. You're absolutely right. Can you sustain it emotionally? The point is, winning £5,500 in 4 weeks doesn't mean that that's your expectation in 4 weeks. In fact, your expectation, look, I don't know because I don't know the standard of games you're playing, but it's perfectly possible to win $5,500 in 4 weeks and have an expectation which is only $500 according to your ability to play and your level, the level at which you're playing. So that's really important. So you could win 5,500 one 4 weeks, lose 5,500 next week, win 6,000 next month, lose 3,000, and gradually, you know, over the course of 6 to 8 months in cash games and about 2 years in tournaments, you'll see an expectation. You'll see the line do this, and it'll slowly on the television, it'll slowly move up. Okay, like that. I would make one general point, and I really, really believe this, which is if you read 60 books and you put in 6 hours on the 6 months on the internet, and you are smart and you do what the books say, and you build on the combined experience of the greatest pros to play the game, and you start from the very simplest premises and you work up, just in exactly the same way as you teach yourself anything. If you do what they say, if you do what we say, you will make a living playing poker. There's no magic fairy dust that we will sprinkle on you that will make you luckier or better or anything like that. Poker is quite simply a game of being a better player, in other words, making better decisions than your opponents. And if you continue to play in the levels that you can beat, slowly but surely moving up, playing with players that are less good than you, getting up when you encounter players that are better than you at any limit for whatever reason, and doing what those books and those articles and those television programs tell you, you will win money. It's just long and hard and slow and can be boring and might not be the life that you dream it is right now. But there's no magic.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks very much. We're going to have to make it really short on these ones, Cass. So
Okay.
we're going to have to do sort of 30-second answers if we can, or even less. Email from PUFC Boy. Hi, guys. Great show. Mark, you and James made great TV the other night. Really funny. Okay. Just wanted to make a comment on tonight's multi-table tournament. I am top three final break now, but just been locked out for 15 minutes. I was not the only one, and I'm gutted. Just in case you wonder why I probably folded aces 6 hands in a row. It's a real shame, as it takes a shine of otherwise brilliant performance, even if I do say so myself. Okay, thank you very much, PFC Boy, and unlucky, and well done to get into the top 3.
Dan in Essex, really quick one. He says, so with reference to my previous question, we've got a satisfied customer here, Mark. He says,
Okay.
thanks, Cass, for the in-depth answer, and that's why you're the A-team. I do have a background in computer programs, so I understand the individual tree structure. Please hurry up and write a book, so I have a funny feeling it'll be a bestseller when it's released. Great.
Very nice indeed. Double Top says, hi Mark and Caspar, please read this after the showing this and go. I hope I made the right moves at the right time. Recently I've cut down the number of games I play, trying to get quality rather than quantity. I must say there is too much quality to make your money on the TV tables. Tonight's sit and go was the most enjoyable for some time. I hope some of my plays will impress Mark. Yes, I thought you played really well. I was his cut man in the corner the other night with James. Do not argue with maths. Take care and chat soon. Yeah, nice. I thought you played really well today, Double Top. Thought you had a very good game indeed. You got one there?
Yes, good morning to you all, says Gordon. Me and my friends were having a game. There was 4 hearts on the table. One of them was the king of hearts. Excuse me. After the betting, we both turned over our cards. I had the queen of hearts. He had a number card of hearts, so something up to a 9. So we both had a flush. Now his other card was the ace of spades. Mine was the number card. Please, can you tell me who should have won this pot, be it me, him, or a split pot? It's the highest heart, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Highest
so
heart.
the person that had the queen of hearts, you've got a king, queen, high flush. The other guy's got a king, 9 high flush. Very simple.
Okay, nice, easy one here. Dear guys, how do you cope with players that call with anything after a pre-flop raise heads up and then go all in after the flop when they do not hit, but they know you have not hit as well? Regards, Mark. Very simple. Just wait for it to catch the hand. I think simple answer to that.
Yeah. Well, and just to flesh that out, you're saying play them, fantastic. When they go all in, fold, 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 fold.
Yeah.
Call with 3 of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely. You only need to catch it once.
Yeah.
Email from Daz. Who we do? They've done that one. Okay. Email from Stuart. Hi. Show is great. I'm relatively new to poker. Only started playing a few months ago. I've got down to the final 2 on a single table tournament quite a few times and managed to reach a final 3 of a multi-table tournament this week. Very nice indeed. I always seem to struggle when I get down to the final 2 or 3, even if I have most chips. How do you have any advice to win? Very simple. Play heads-up matches. Play heads-up tournaments, and that will give you lots of experience. So when you get into that situation, you're more comfortable with it. I think we're about run out of time, haven't we?
That's it, yeah. I would just say, so listen, folks, I'm going to be on in a couple of days' time, and I want to continue this theme of recent history. How does your recent history with a player affect the way that you play them? I think it's really interesting. I don't think the literature's dealt with it properly. So keep your emails coming in about that. Have a think about it in the meantime. I'll be really keen to know. Any final thoughts from you, Mark?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Neil from Neil, aka Mooncat, Shouzi, and Riverdog. And H2O Stephen, if you send in your emails tomorrow, they'll be answered. Sorry, couldn't do any more than that. But it's been a great show, and I hope you enjoyed it. And from me and Cass, it's time to say goodnight.
Good night, folks.